Hello, Internet! Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another special episode of Deep Listens, your bi-weekly video game book club. And this week it's a very special edition because it is Game of the Year time, and I am joined, as always, by Billy the Snitch Rothert.
The shirt, bro.
No, wait, why am I called this? Oh, my shirt. All right, yeah, I guess. I mean, look, if we're going to do a Game of the Year, and we're wrapping up 2015, first podcast we did, I think you said something about my shirt, so it's only fitting.
I'm glad you have a memory that remembers all the way back to that episode, the dark
It
times.
was either episode 1 or episode 2. My name was like Blue Shirt.
Yes. It was.
Back in the old days of Gino making sweet nicknames.
He was just really self-conscious about it.
You haven't lost a speck of your tenacity, Gino.
Tenacity.
Yep. And the deep baritone you heard was our video game PhD student, not actually a video game PhD student, PhD candidate, whatever. Peter, animal rights activist Busby.
That's true. It's true. I don't practice your vegetarian, Gino, because I do find them delicious. But I'm very morally conflicted about it. I don't have an animal fact, but I do have an animal rights related fact.
Ooh.
Yeah. Colonel Sanders, he actually was made an honorary colonel in the Kentucky militia, I want to say. So he actually was a colonel.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
My life's better
everywhere
just because I know that.
White suit.
Dang. Well, that is good to know. That will enrich my life going forward.
I'm sure it will.
So it is Game of the Year time. Just important to note, we have not recorded anything about Mark of Ninja, so if you heard our Undertale podcast, Mark of Ninja is not in the consideration for any of this stuff. So if you're screaming at your iPod, do people still use iPods?
I use an iPod.
Okay.
I use a Microsoft Zune.
If you're screaming like
Zune player.
You're using a Microsoft Zune? Step your game up. Or
I have like 3 or 4 of them. I tape them all together.
Did you get them all like when a Microsoft store was going out of business?
They were just like carrying a big box up into the curb. They just dropped them and dust flew off the box. And I was like, oh.
Oh wow, Zunes. Crazy. I'm gonna squirt music at other people. That was their feature, right? Like you could send music over wirelessly.
I don't know, man.
Zunes are weird, but so Mark of the Ninja, if you're like Mark of the Ninja should totally win this, it's because it's not in consideration. So weird time issues and everything. So get that out of the way. And feedback, we don't have feedback in this episode. This episode is going to be action packed, so we're not going to be going over feedback for other stuff. So without further ado, let us get to the Game of the Year discussions.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, Gino.
Yes.
What's the first category we're going to do this year?
Game of the Year.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We're not going to wait till the end?
No, we start with a banger. You know
Coming
why?
out hard.
You know why, Billy?
What? No, enlighten me, please.
Because we played 2 games that came out this year.
Kinda 3, maybe?
Yes. We are going... Okay, so the nominees are Undertale, Until Dawn, The End. However...
End of list.
I'm willing to make an exception, so let me just
Please do.
explain. So the Talos Principle came out in December of 2014, and most game sites have a real blind spot for games that come out toward the end, towards like December on of a year, because Game of the Year recordings happen before most people go on vacations and breaks, and so the voting and all the considerations are done before that game comes out. And so it doesn't technically qualify for the subsequent year's Game of the Year, but it also never really got a shot for the current year that it came out in. So I am totally okay. I think the Talos Principle should be in consideration.
Yeah, let's do it.
And also, this list has 2 games in it, and Billy actively hates one of them.
Yeah.
I probably actively hate the other. So.
No, I don't think you hate the other as much as Billy hates the first.
Wait, Pete, which one do you hate? You didn't like Undertale that much?
Undertale, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 3 games here. We've got Undertale, we've got Until Dawn, and we've got the Talos Principle. A great field of games that are completely comparable.
Yeah, totally.
That have a lot of business being compared to one another.
Should we do it by secret ballot? Send them off-site to be tabulated?
No, I think we should just talk it out and try to find a place where we agree. I think that is the best way to come to a definitive answer. And if we are at a deadlock, let's vote. And there are 3 of us, so we can never have a tie. Unless we all vote for different things.
Well, we'd have to narrow it down to 2 games first, and then we can never have a tie.
Yes, that's true. So let's narrow it down to 2 games first. Until Dawn is off. How does everyone feel about that?
I feel fine about Until Dawn not winning.
I'm perfectly comfortable with it as well.
It is a fine game. I enjoyed it, but it doesn't hang with these other 2 games.
No, it's not best of anything.
Yeah, so now it's Undertale versus Talos Principle.
Yes. Does anyone feel strongly about either of these 2 games? I feel strongly about Undertale.
Yeah, I know. Why don't you start us off, Gene? We'll start on a positive note.
Okay. So I think Undertale was one of the most innovative games I've played in a very long time. I feel like it is emblematic of indie games kind of coming to the fore as a real voice for creators in the game industry. It takes a lot of risks and makes a lot of design decisions that could not have happened outside of the structure in which it was made. I think it nails so many story aspects and storytelling aspects and plays with how stories are told in video games. And I think it's something that games are going to learn a lot of lessons from. I think the music, though it starts off kind of meh, the soundtrack actually becomes really solid as the game goes on. I actually enjoy it quite a lot. I think it had the most memorable characters of any game I've played in a while. Like, I enjoyed and remember even random enemies in that game, which is something that almost never happens. I think the setting was good. I like the message. I like that it's replayable. It's got a lot of different perspectives you can take away from it depending on how you play. It's got a lot of stuff going on, and it's $10. And it's like, how did like 1 to 5 people make this game? Now that doesn't necessarily imply best or anything, but I think it's just a thing that impacted my experience of it.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I would disagree with your contention of replay value, just because the game does actively discourage you from replaying it. That's one of like the core messages of the game.
Well, if you get a pacifist ending, yes, It says you got the best ending. Why are you looking for anything else?
Yeah, and I think that's emblematic of one of my larger complaints with the game. Sort of twofold. One is, and we covered this in the podcast about it. One is it sort of mandates the way the individual approaches the game, right? There are lots of avenues you could take, but there's one obvious one you should take. And the other is, like I said before, it's just enamored with its own stylistics. But that being said, I'm willing to say it's best in terms of its most innovative or indicative or perhaps most important regarding where video games as a whole are headed. I'm not saying I enjoyed it the most. I'm not saying it was the most fun, but maybe it was the most important.
Okay, Billy.
All right, I'm going to throw out Talos Principle for the following reason.
Throw it away? Like not?
I'm going to suggest, nominate.
Okay.
Put forth Talos Principle. I would vote Talos Principle for Game of 2015. Now, I loved Undertale. Undertale was so solid. It did so many things right. I had some problems with Undertale, and they were small to some people, but kind of huge to me. The thought that, and I guess I haven't explored this completely, but the thought that I could actually ruin like my entire game by picking a bad ending, and then even if I wanted to, I couldn't start a new game and get a different ending. Like one of the endings would be just like deleted from my entire experience. I'm not sure if that's true, but it's sort of suggested, and I think if the developers could have done that somehow, they might have chosen to do it. So that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
They could have. They chose not. They chose to let you reset it. It's just
you can't
your
actually.
best ending
I don't know
is
if you
not as
can
good
reset.
anymore.
or not?
No, what I'm saying is you can. After you wait 10 minutes, you're allowed to reset the game and start over. But once you get to the end, your good ending will never be the true good ending anymore.
Never? Yeah,
you would have to edit files.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it. I think I have to respect it for doing something different, but I would never make a game that way.
Okay, you are making an argument against Undertale, but you said you wanted to put forward the Talos Principle.
I am going to put forward the Talos Principle. So here's why. Talos Principle, though it, superficially is just a puzzle game, interacted with me in a outside of the game level more than any other game had this year. Now, I'm going to admit to a little bit of bias here. The subject matter that's covered in a game like Talos Principle is just riddled with things like personhood, AI consciousness, whether it exists or doesn't exist, personhood.
Personhood again.
Oh, did I say it twice?
Yeah.
That's how
it's double important.
Yeah.
Tons of faith discussion, tons of dualist versus physicalist discussion. I mean, it goes everywhere that I like to discuss in philosophy, ethics, morality, and it's all just summed up in a fun, immersive experience. So I think of all the games that we played this year, that had the most profound effect on me while I was playing it, and it stuck with me the longest after I finished, and it's a game that I would recommend most frequently to someone looking for a new experience. Undertale is also a new experience, but I feel like if you're a gamer, it sort of panders to that audience.
Yeah.
And if you're more casual, I think Undertale may not strike some of the chords that it did for like us three, because
you're not going to get the sequence where Mettaton is basically recreating the scene from Final Fantasy VI, the opera scene from Final Fantasy VI.
And I think, Billy, you're drawing a distinction. Undertale's unique in terms of you're going to have a unique gameplay experience, whereas Talos Principle, you'll have a unique intellectual experience. It'll get you thinking about sort of key concepts for Western humanism from a different perspective.
And I think that's applicable to all potential players. And I'm not holding this against Undertale, but there are some stuff that is tailored specifically for people that thrive and live in this culture, this sort of, I guess, deeper gaming culture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair.
I see that argument. So, I love both of these games. These two games are some of the favorites that I've played.
Well, Pete hasn't actually proposed his suggestion.
Yeah, where are you leaning? Because I'm leaning Undertale right now, just because I think the elegance of its mechanics, like the thing that there's kind of a disconnect for me between how you play the Talos Principle and what the Talos Principle is actually about, because it's mostly about an AI coming to sentience or trying to demonstrate that it is sentient. And trying to prove that ultimately that it's human, and they do conflate humanity with sentience a whole bunch. And the way you do that is by solving abstract puzzles, using boxes and flipping switches and stuff, and reflecting light. And I understand it as a metaphor, and it's kind of a fun gameplay. But I think the one-to-one there of like solving these abstract puzzles equals humanity, I think is a little it's a metaphor, but I think it's not as strong as it could be. Whereas Undertale, I felt like it had the most cohesive experience in terms of what attacking means, what talking to someone means, and having a unity of vision there, where it's just kind of seamless.
I'm going to push back against Gino a bit and defend my choice of Talos Principle, because you said that solving puzzles and refracting light wasn't a good capture for what it means to like achieve humanity. That's what you were saying, right? As a criticism.
Yeah, it's just a little disjointed. It's like we need a way to communicate this experience, so let's go with puzzles.
I think part of the game's beautiful simplicity was that it was a puzzle game to get from point A to point B, but along the way there was another part of this game which was interacting with the interface of the world. There was more to just getting. There was more than just getting stars.
Yes.
You had to talk to Milton. You had to obey or disobey Elohim. You had to read the messages and put up your own messages on the walls with those QR code scanners. I think there's more to that than just puzzles. And if I look at the big picture, then I think we do get a good grasp of what it would be like to create humanity. Even though I'm still not going to grant AI's personhood status to the bitter end, I think the game captured something very human, which is, I guess, internal conflict, introspection, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Pete.
I guess I'm the rubber vote in this case then. In that case, as much as it pains me, I'm going to have to throw my support behind Undertale, you know? And I think this is basically a degree of difficulty argument. I think Undertale had a lot of balls in the air, and they let a bunch of them drop as far as I'm concerned, but I appreciated how many they tossed up there to begin with, you know? They get my support.
Okay. All right. So I want to reiterate, I loved the Talos Principle. I think both of these games are great, and if I had to recommend a game to someone who wanted to think about the topics that the Talos Principle covers, like, you know, there are so many topics that the Talos Principle thinks about and thinks about critically that games usually don't even talk about. But same thing with Undertale, and I think both of these games are excellent. Truly, they were the best of the games of 2015 that we played this year. And unfortunately, one of them had to win. So Undertale gets game of 2015. Billy, unless you cannot abide this.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
The Billy abides.
The Billy abides. Game of the year for 2015 and only 2015 is Undertale. Let me write that down so that in the end we can summarize this.
And I think when we send out our awards, you know, to all the developers,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure they're waiting.
Yeah, someone asked me if we had, like, a name for our awards, like the Deepies.
Deep.
The Deeps.
The Deepies. The Listenies.
The Mariana Trench Memorial Deep Listens Awards.
That's pretty good. All right, and the first Mariana Trench Deep Listen Award goes to Undertale for Game of the Year.
Get out.
Mariana's Trench. Okay. Second category here, Character of the Year.
Mm.
This is a deep category.
This is a deep category.
It's Mariana's Trench deep.
That's
Okay, so let's nominate one at a time. I'll just write these down so that we have a list.
Top of the list, Kairi from Kingdom Hearts. You know,
One True Love.
right? Just because everyone loves her so much, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
As the
just to
official
be
nomination from Pete.
And then just put a line through it, like right after.
And then I'm going to put a line directly through it. All opposed?
No, it's just
okay. She's
I
immediately
just wanted to be on the record as putting Kyrie forward.
Okay, I'm going to show you that.
It is.
They
for
can't see it.
It was written down, and there is a line now through
and now
it.
it's gone. Okay. Next nomination, Billy.
Oh, well, shit. I'm going to nominate Milton Library Assistant.
Milton. Yes. I agree.
For those who may have missed this particular game or have forgotten, need a little brush up.
We talked about it like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, but not Milton.
Yeah.
Specifically. So in Talos Principle, Milton was
let's nominate everyone, and then when we
go for it,
get the whole list, we can go through these characters and really talk about them in depth. Because I have a feeling Milton's going to stay for a while. I'm going to go ahead and nominate Papyrus.
Okay.
Because he's funny, and I enjoy him.
All right, so now we have 3 nominees. That's it, right?
No, we can keep going.
Yeah, forget Kyrie anyway. I think we should toss Thomas out there.
Yep.
I think Thomas is a contender.
Billy.
Let me see.
We did play The Walking Dead. So
go ahead and you go next, I'm going to take a look at this real quick.
I'm going to go ahead and toss out Clementine from The Walking Dead. The little kid that you protect through most of The Walking Dead. I feel like she should be on the list, even if she doesn't win it. She's really good.
I feel like there should be at least one from To the Moon, too.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
That's what I'm just trying to think. Who would it be?
We could just say like the doctors.
How about the moon?
Yeah, the moon's pretty strong. So do you want to nominate one particular, Dr. Watts or Dr.
I was thinking the
I mean, I think
the
they go
old
hand
man.
in hand, really.
Who's the guy? I forget his name.
James? What's the name?
Is that whose head they go into?
What's his name?
Let me take a look. To the moon. And Lee Everett, I'm going to also say for best character. He's the main character of The Walking Dead.
Okay.
And the old guy whose brain you go into is John.
John.
Yeah, I'm going to toss John on there.
James John.
And I'm also going to throw Dr. Watts on. I think he is the superior doctor.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Dr. Watts being the male doctor.
The male doctor
Yeah.
actually, they're both pretty good.
They are. You want to make a package deal?
I'm gonna put them both down, and then we can fight about which of them is the better doctor.
All right.
Yeah, I really don't want to nominate anybody else for this one. I think I'm just gonna stick with Milton. I really think Milton is probably stands out foremost in my mind.
I'm gonna nominate someone for you, Billy. I'm gonna nominate Storm Spirit.
No.
And then I'm gonna cross him directly off.
Fine. All right, okay. All right, look, if I'm going to actually nominate somebody, I'm going to nominate Vladen from Valda's Story as my second one.
Really?
Yeah, Vladen.
Okay, you're going to have to explain who Vladen is because neither one of us played him. But
okay,
we'll get to that at the end. Let's see. Any other games? Halo 3, we're nominating no one from Halo 3.
Yeah, we'll just...
I'm cool with that.
That's fine. Which, like, what are we going to... The Flood? Who would we even pick?
Master Chief, Cortana, the two characters.
Actually, I'm going to switch from Vladen to Gilda.
Okay, I'm
gonna switch from Vladen to Gilda. Yeah, it was hard, but that's gonna be like a really quick turn.
I'm gonna add Raz. From
Sure,
Psychonauts,
Raz is fine.
And Boyd.
Was Boyd the little one?
Boyd was the milkman.
Oh, the milkman. Yeah. I thought Boyd was one of the kids.
Milkman ex security guard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or ex-milkman current security.
Do we want to add... He's kind of both at the same time. Right. Do we want to add Mike from Until Dawn or anyone from Until Dawn?
No
one from Until Dawn. Jessica?
The Wendigos?
No one. The Wendigos? Lara Croft from Tomb Raider? She had so much character development. No?
Sure.
No.
Pass? Okay. No one from Child of Light? I'm cool with that. We have Thomas from Thomas Was Alone. I also want to add... Who's the square? Sarah? Claire. Claire on there.
I like Mike, too. But Mike's not going to beat out Thomas. No reason to add him.
Okay. And Kingdom Hearts gets no nominations, as it should. I'm going to add Jack Skellington and then cross him off.
Okay, cool. Well, we had Kyrie.
We did have Kyrie.
All right, let's roll. Come on.
All right, I think that's enough nominees. Okay. So
look, we probably named like 12.
We named a lot.
We can get to 6 easy by just picking our favorite 2. And I'm going to go first, Milton and Gilda.
Okay, I'm going to put little checks next to them. Pete.
Give me Thomas and John.
Thomas and John.
Thomas and John.
I'm going to go Papyrus and Raz.
We know who you're sticking with here.
Do we?
Yeah.
I don't think we do yet. But I feel like Clementine and Lee are getting shortchanged, but not all three of us played that game.
Yeah, and you're probably right.
To be fair, both of them won like all the Game of the Year awards.
Yeah,
true.
We're edgy and hip, and we're not going to follow those other Game of the Year lists.
So Dr. Watson, Dr. Eva, if they were one character, I think they would both be here. But since we put them down as 2,
yeah, I split them up,
which I think is fair because then like Papyrus and Sans are one character because they're buddies or they're brothers, and
yeah,
I don't think that's fair. So okay, I'm cool with this. And Boyd, I like Claire, but sure. Boyd, I like, but he's just kind of funny as an idea more than as a character.
James is a solid pick. Sorry, not James. Thomas.
Thomas? Yep.
Yeah, Thomas.
Okay, now we've got 6. We've got Milton, Papyrus, Thomas, John, Gilda, and Raz. All right, let's make... Is there anyone who you don't feel super strongly about? and would make an impassioned argument for winning the award.
Are we asking us to defend both of ours if we're leaning against one, or does someone think someone shouldn't be on the list?
So Papyrus is pretty great. He acknowledges his own greatness.
True. If it were how well they thought of themselves, he would win outright immediately.
What's the list again?
It is Milton,
Raz, Papyrus,
Thomas, John, and Gilda.
I feel like John's never going to come in first.
I
don't know. I love John. I thought that game is his story.
I like John better than Thomas. I think. Tell you what, I'll sacrifice Thomas to keep John.
Okay.
I think I can make a better argument for John.
Okay. I love you, Thomas. You were alone, and then you weren't alone.
And now you're alone again.
I can kind of agree with get rid of Thomas because I think it was the other characters that really made the game, not so much Thomas. Like, Thomas was unique, and for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, he was all that, but then it ended up being a narration story, a teamwork story, and every character played.
I think that's an ensemble cast.
Yeah, it's really an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree.
We just
Billy, explain Gilda. Explain why Gilda should be here.
So here's
going to be a tough sell.
It will be a tough sell, and I'm okay if she loses because I really just want to get her story out there.
I just want to know what Gilda's deal is.
He just wants to raise Gilda awareness.
You start this game having the option of only playing 2 characters, and you have to play through the whole game and beat it before you even unlock Vladen or Gilda. Right? And whether you play Wyatt or you play Reyna, who are your first 2 starting characters, you get a weird vibe from Gilda. If you play Wyatt, she kind of picks on you and, maybe treats you like it's hard to explain it without spoiling, so I'll just kind of say she kind of picks on you and is friendly, but just sort of there for a while. And if you play Reyna, she has like an active dislike for you. Right? And then once you beat the game and you can play as Gilda, you get to see her point of view of these reactions and these interactions. So I'll explain a little bit deeper. When you replay this game as Vladen or Gilda, all the dialogues for the bosses change. Right? You get like different introductory or different conversations you have between certain enemies. And Gilda's adds the most new stuff. So her character playthrough brings out the most in as far as behind the scenes story in Valda's story. Further, we find out why Gilda has contempt for Reyna and why she sort of picks on Wyatt. Gilda's actually in love with Wyatt and resents Reyna because she believes that Wyatt has his eye on Reyna. That is a twist that you get at the very end of the game, as you don't notice it really, but if you look at the final scene where they're all standing on top of the pharaoh that's brought them outside of the ocean, it's Vladen, Reyna, and Wyatt's on the ground, and Gilda's the one cradling Wyatt.
Okay.
So that impacted me pretty deeply. I think some other little things were she had really great dialogue with some of the bosses. You found out some more of their backstory. Like, her whole character as a package just made me so glad that I played through that game to such completion. I mean, she really added a new dimension of the entire game for me. So that's why I think Gilda stands out for me as character of the year. She did so much and brought so much depth to the game.
Okay.
And had probably the most interesting and innovative fight system in that game. Instead of having melee attacks or ranged attacks, all of your basic attacks were just replaced by your spells. And you had an ability that could just channel all your MP back. So she was the most different and innovative combat style, too.
All right.
She was pretty awesome.
So that is a compelling argument for Gilda. Can we lose anyone else?
Do you want to try to defend Papyrus? Because that would be my next vote. Chop him out if I could.
I'd probably vote out Papyrus too.
He's pretty great. You go on a date with him, and he tries to serve you spaghetti, and he hides the spaghetti under his hat.
True. All these are facts.
He has a shirt that says "Cool Dude." He likes you, but he doesn't love you. And it breaks your heart because he is very great. I'm crossing Papyrus off. He made me laugh. He made me laugh a lot.
It's important to have a sense of humor in this world. Making somebody laugh can be very attractive.
Yep. I think both of the characters that are still on the list that I nominated are humorous. So I value laughter. So at this point, we've got Gilda, John, Milton, and Raz.
I don't think, as impassioned as Billy's argument was, it was very good.
I'm okay with losing Gilda.
Yeah, I don't think Gilda's going to win either.
Bye, Gilda. Okay, now the knives come out.
So we have Raz, Milton, and John.
Milton and John.
I'm just not buying John.
All right, let me start.
Okay. So John, we've got Pete. Do you want to defend John, or I'll defend John?
I'll start with John, and you jump in, Gino. So I have a couple points to make. My largest one is that I felt John's love story to be the most compelling of any of sort of the romances we haven't played too many romantic games in general. There's not a lot of romance going on in Dota.
You guys didn't play Gilda's story.
You didn't like the dating hub in Papyrus's?
I didn't feel the romance. It was a lustful experience. I lusted after Papyrus. There wasn't a lot of romance there.
Okay. The crime rating was too high in your area. I'm sorry.
But the thing about John's story was he was grappling with his love for this woman that he didn't really understand. And I felt like that's what was most compelling about John, was that he was trying to sort of reach or connect with this woman who's just, mind function in a way so dissimilar to his that it was a constant struggle. But, he bought that fucking lighthouse and he built the house, tried his hardest, man. And if I can't have Kyrie and my love for her, I at least want, John's love.
Yeah, and his last act is to try to have everything. Yeah. I think, and for him, having everything is being with his wife and achieving her dreams. And I think that that's something that, that game is so moving because of John and who he is and seeing his path through life and experiencing it. So I see that. Raz, again, he's funny. He's the circus boy. I enjoy him. I'm fine with crossing him off because
I feel like as the main character, he has a little bit less to
talking about Raz now.
Yeah, as the main character of the game, you can do less actual character building because so much of your time is spent behind the wheel. Right?
Yeah, he's kind of the straight man. Well, he's not really the straight man to a bunch of lunatics around him because he is himself kind of a lunatic. But his job is mostly to look at other people and say, that person's kind of crazy.
If you had said Milkman guy or Black Velvetopia guy.
Oh, yeah, Edgar. Oh, crap. I should have put Edgar instead of Raz. Can I put Edgar instead of Raz?
Sure.
I made a mistake.
Sure. I will just let you pick any Psychonauts character, but you got to think hard about this because first of all, I'm going to fight for Milton, but
yeah, let him think. Why don't you fight for Milton while he's making a decision over there in his notebook?
All right, so I feel like, luckily after this, I probably won't be mentioning Talos Principle again. It was just sort of coincidence that these awards came up back to back. So Milton throws out. Well, I guess I didn't actually explain him the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Milton is a computer system. In the beginning of the game, you think of Milton as being sort of a search tool, kind of like that paperclip or the dog from Microsoft 98 or something.
First thought I had.
Yeah. Later in the game, He starts to ask you questions. Questions that probably don't, you wouldn't guess a search engine would ask back to you. Right? Then he becomes a straight-up antagonist.
Well, I wouldn't say antagonist so much as he's a Satan figure. He's a figure of doubt. And
he is the serpent in the garden.
Yes.
If you want to go full biblical, that's it.
We'll go full Bible.
And the game does in its
I'm not going to argue
achievements that call him the serpent.
For or against that. We already did that in the podcast. But if you want to go full biblical, he is the serpent in the grass, right? Milton comes out in true colors and he's so fun to just interact with, because you can have real dialogues with Milton. Super in-depth, hard question dialogues. And whoever was writing this game knew their shit, because, and Pete can support this because he also took a lot of the same classes as me. Like, whoever was writing this game had a deep knowledge of these philosophical, moral, religious concepts, because they ask all the hard questions and he gives you all the hard responses. He was just crafted beautifully, makes you think outside the box. For somebody who wasn't a philosophy major or religious studies major, you're going to get thrown for a loop by Milton. Milton's going to mess with you a little bit. I mean, probably in a bigger way than I'm giving him credit for. Because some people that are going to play this game haven't had questions like that asked of them. I mean, I think Milton just puts in so much work for literally just being a box of text on a monitor.
So let me ask a question. Is Milton, is he a great character, or is he a great sounding board?
Yeah, sparring partner, if you will.
He's great as someone to bounce your own ideas off of. But when you strip him bare, it seems like at his core, he's kind of just a bunch of questions and nihilism. And I don't know how much of him is just great responses to questions you are asking yourself, and how much of it is because I know Milton, I know what he wants, I know what he needs, I know what he needs.
But we're not always the one asking Milton questions. It goes back and forth a lot. Towards the last third of the game, Milton's just asking you questions and kind of pushing you around and being a bully. In the first third of the game, he kind of does what we expect him to do, which is be a computer system. I'm talking not just what he does, but the evolution of a character. You want to talk about development? Milton gets developed, even if that means he gets entirely corrupted. And I don't want to hear any arguments saying like, well, you can't call something a character if you just feed it lines of text, because
no.
all you do,
That's not my argument. My argument is just that how much of him is, like with John, I find it really emotionally compelling, the journey he goes through. With Milton, I feel like most of my experiences with him were not being impressed. I guess some of it was me being impressed with Milton as a character and how he thought. But the more I hammered against him, the more I got the sense that he was just there to say, whatever you think, screw what you think. And just to be a sparring partner.
Let me put out my final word, and then I'm going to put Milton to rest here. This is going to be quick. Every time I see another character in a game and I know that there's going to be an opportunity for dialogue, I get a little bit excited that I'm going to get to have some kind of interaction with the game. I got excited when I saw Papyrus because I knew I was going to get some funny one-liners, some funny scenarios. I got excited for hearing about John's romance. I got excited for those deep, touching moments. I was so excited every time I heard that annoying little like beep boop that meant that I was going to talk to Milton. I was like, here we go, like round 7, right? Convincing a machine that I'm a person, and I was so hyped. No other character has done that for me. Am I a little bit biased because I did all kinds of academic research on this? Maybe. But Milton just put in so much work. I got to give it credit.
Okay. I'm going to just go ahead and say Edgar would have been my Psychonauts person. Edgar's awesome. I love his level. I love that every single Psychonauts character that you get to experience their mental realm. I love the way that they're developed through their level design. I think that's super elegant. But I don't think they hang with either of these characters.
Edgar was Black Velvetopia.
Yeah, he would have been my
honorable
go-to,
mention for sure.
But, I enjoy his mental realm being Black Velvet paintings and bullfights and luchadors, but actually it all boils down to him being slighted as a child, and I guess in high school, him being dumped by a girl, and how that was turned into this larger motif. But that's more exceptional level design than it is like his character being incredibly interesting. His character is like there are like 2 or 3 things that are interesting about Edgar, but his character is not necessarily all of it. Okay, Pete. So we've got John and we've got Milton.
I'm gonna have to go with John, and I agree with pretty much everything Billy said about Milton. You know, he is an exceptional, but I think what this boils down to is, you know, me making perhaps a hair-splitting distinction in what it means to be a character. And I think Milton is an exceptional repository of philosophical arguments, but there's a difference between that and being an actual character. And maybe it's, you know, anthropomorphic for me to suggest that, but he's just not, you know, a person, so he can't be a character.
Hey, I'm all right with you saying he's not a person. You're not going to give me the argument against that.
But I'm a little upset with it personally.
All right. I'm gonna say John also, even though I really like Milton.
Hey.
I really like Milton, but I want to throw in a surprise character you guys didn't experience. The Carrot from Pajama Sam.
No.
He's pretty awesome. Wait, let me just tell you some of the things he says.
We know.
Here's some of his quotes. Totally tubular.
Off to a great start.
Eat your vegetables.
Only going uphill from there.
Property is theft, man. Power to the parsley. Materialism really steams me.
That's a carrot joke.
Vegetables, remember your roots.
All right, I like that. That one's pretty good, actually. I like that one.
Salad, it's not just a side dish anymore. And close the refrigerator, I'm dressing.
All right, so what's our next category?
Okay, the winner is John. Carrot. I tried carrot. And the next category. So the winner of Character of the Year is John. Next up, Best Comedy. So Best Comedy, I think our obvious nominees are Until Dawn. No.
Undertale, I guess.
Undertale, yes, definitely Undertale.
Fallout 3 is kind of funny.
Yep, Fallout 3.
No.
You don't think Fallout 3 is funny?
Fallout 3 garbage. Out of here. For comedy?
I think so.
Nothing funny about that game.
It's like a satirical look at what the apocalypse would look like from a 1950s Americana perspective.
It is a black comedy.
I'm going to nominate Psychonauts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's see. I think Fallout 3 stands. Like, we can knock it down, but I think it should at least go on the list.
Sure. I'll punch it right in the fucking jaw and knock it down.
The Republic of Dave, I think, is like, you know, that's pretty good. Halo 3, that's pretty funny.
I'll nominate Thomas Was Alone.
Thomas Was Alone. Yeah, I like that one.
So I'm really feeling Psychonauts and Thomas Was Alone right now.
All right.
So
I think it's going to be hard to break into a top 3 and not have those two.
Yep. So we've got Psychonauts, we've got Fallout 3, we've got Undertale, and we've got Thomas Was Alone. So Billy just doesn't like Fallout 3. I am not going to make a passionate argument for Fallout 3. But hey, you're on this list because you were a comedy. Way to go. Next up, we've got Thomas Was Alone, Psychonauts, Undertale. Of these, I have 2 babies, and only one of them can win.
I nominated Psychonauts and Thomas Was Alone. I can probably get rid of Thomas, and here's why. If you take out the narrator of Thomas Was Alone, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, if you take out the jumps, you don't really have a game either. I mean,
right. But actually, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Thomas, let me put it to you this way.
You might be taking that for granted, but we're not going to go there.
Thomas Was Alone was funny. It made me chuckle. None of them made me laugh out loud. None of the jokes in Thomas Was Alone made me laugh out loud.
Right. I think Psychonauts and Undertale just are clearly going to be the 2 funnier games.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So now Psychonauts and Undertale, which is the comedy of the year.
All right, I'm going to fight for Psychonauts. And here's why. I think Psychonauts reaches that level of 90s, like Nickelodeon or Disney animated comedy that we don't see much of today. Where it's funny for the kids because there's slapstick humor and there's funny scenarios and people slip on banana peels or get hit by a bull's horns in the ass and it's
I got hit in the ass.
Funny. But also there's that subtle like adult humor that kids aren't going to get, but like if your dad's playing in the room, he's probably going to laugh out loud too. Undertale was funny, but only because I was that I've been a lifelong gamer and that I'm tapped into all this prerequisite knowledge that someone else isn't going to have access to necessarily. Psychonauts, it can be your first game of your life and you're going to enjoy it and it's going to be funny for you, but if Undertale's one of your first gaming experiences, you're probably going to have a lot of it go over your head.
Yeah, there's a lot of internet baggage that you need to carry into
It's basically meme references.
Pretty much.
Some of them are creating their own.
Right. I don't want to reduce it all to meme references, but it's kind of like memey. It's kind of memey.
Okay, Pete.
Undertale, for me, Undertale was like hypothetically funny. I looked at it and I was like, yes, this is a joke. I could see how someone would laugh at this. But Psychonauts is actually funny to me. I have to go Psychonauts.
Oh, wow. This is such a hard decision. Oh, what is my hand doing? Oh, no, it's crashing out Undertale. Oh, it's circling Psychonauts.
And putting a star next to Psychonauts.
And then it's putting a little heart next to it. And
guess what? Psychonauts wins, guys.
And wow, we have one game of 2015 too. Weird. How'd that happen? Okay, Psychonauts wins. You get your Marianas Trench Deep Listens trophy, Psychonauts.
Next category. Best drama.
Best drama. Okay, so in case you as a listener were wondering why we did best comedy, this would usually, in most gaming sites or stuff, would just be best story. And the idea of narrowing this down to one story when we would be comparing Psychonauts straight up to Thomas Was Alone, straight up to The Last of Us, or Until Dawn.
Like Until Dawn and Thomas Was Alone should not be compared.
No, because they both are great stories and they're great in completely different ways. And, other award shows have ways of dealing with this. They break it up by genre.
We're going to do best adventure next, and these three categories, you can't just narrow it down to best story. So we're going to just split them for respect of these games, because we played a lot of good games.
Drama of the year or best drama. I'm going to go ahead and nominate To the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to nominate The Last of Us.
I'm going to toss out Shadow of the Colossus.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
My heart skipped a beat. I'm going to have to defend two games now.
So we've got To the Moon, Shadow of the Colossus, and Billy, yours was?
The Last of Us.
Okay. I'm going to throw out The Walking Dead. And is there any other game that we are missing?
No, I mean,
I feel like we don't need to add any more.
Yeah, there are other ones.
Final Fantasy VIII. But... No, it's not going to win. Okay, so I put The Walking Dead on. It's excellent. Not all of us played it, and it won all the Game of the Year awards. So, it's really good.
I feel like an honest reason to get it off the list is I think the stuff that'll make it the best drama, The Last of Us did just as good or better.
I disagree. Did you play The Walking Dead?
Yeah, I played both those games.
Okay, you played both. I just think the Lee Clementine story is just... I found it so much more compelling than the Joel Ellie story. I think that I believe Lee as a father a lot more than I believe Joel, I believe their relationship a lot more, and maybe that's just because the game spends a lot more time on developing Lee and Clementine's relationship and focusing on the drama, whereas The Last of Us is really beholden to action segments that don't necessarily advance each of the characters. But the interpersonal drama of will Lee be able to protect Clementine? Will Clementine learn to be able to be a survivor? Will Lee be able to balance his dedication to each of the members of the party and his dedication to Clementine and make decisions that benefit everyone? Like, there are so many dramatic moments in The Walking Dead that I think are higher highs than The Last of Us ever gets to.
All right, then let's just say one of these two games has to go. Last of Us or Walking Dead. And who stays?
Pete, did you not play The Walking Dead?
No.
Did you not play The Last of Us?
No.
Okay, so you haven't played either. So how's about Billy and I both rattle off like the peak moment that we think really is emblematic?
Okay.
All right, we get 1 moment to explain.
I'll play Solomon.
Just 1 moment.
Cut the baby in half.
No, I think it's just 1 moment.
Right.
Okay, fine. 1 moment. Go ahead. You go first.
Sure. All right, I'm going to go full spoiler, last scene of the game. Right? For The Last of Us. Joel, we're going to circle back to the beginning. We see first scene of the game. Joel is in a strange situation. He's got his young daughter there with him. And something breaks out. It's that sort of classic, it's a zombie movie and something weird happens like the first day of the outbreak kind of thing.
Sure.
He and his daughter are rushing out of the building, trying to get to safety, and his daughter is killed in the process.
Sure.
So we see Joel's daughter dies in his arms. Much later, he meets a character named Ellie, who becomes, for the duration of the game, your pseudo-daughter figure, right? You grow an attachment to this character. And here we get to the last scene of the game, right? This character, Ellie, has, as a physical trait of hers, an immunity to what is causing the zombie outbreak. And she could save humanity, potentially. Not guaranteed, but it's possible. To try to create that humanity-saving vaccine or whatever, it would almost 100% kill her. It is in her brain what they need. They need to extract her brain and dissect it, and she would not be Ellie anymore.
Like the sharks in Deep Blue Sea.
Not even going to touch it. Anyway, Joel makes the decision to take Ellie from this facility and flee, saving her life. They have a conversation in the vehicle on their way out, and this is the last scene of the game. Ellie asks Joel, because she was unconscious and like anesthesia or something during this whole thing. Joel carries her out of this building, wasting half the doctors there to escape with Ellie, who is his assumed daughter. And in the backseat of the truck, Ellie goes, "Joel, what did we find back there? Was there a potential cure?" Not only does she ask him straight up, she says, "Joel, I need you to know that if you lie to me, we're not going to be good. That's going to be major problems." Joel looks at her square in the eyes in the rearview mirror and is like, "We did not find anything there. There was no cure. That was a bad lead." He straight up lies right to her to save her life as his would-be new daughter figure.
Okay. So, The Walking Dead. It's a zombie story, so it's zombie rules. If you get bit, you turn. In the third episode of this 5-episode game, there's a character, Kenny, who has a wife and a son named Duck. And his wife's name is...
Doesn't matter.
Oh, his wife. I feel bad about not knowing her name off the top of my head. Let me look this up. There's a lot of characters in The Walking Dead, and I played that game a while ago. And it's an Eastern European name, I think. Oh no, not the comic book. That's the one I want. There we go. So Kenny, he's one of the first characters you interact with. He's one of the only characters that you see from the very, 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 very beginning. Katja. Katja is his wife's name. The very beginning of the game, you find out that he is a family man. He puts his family first. He really cares. If any danger comes and you decide to side with anyone that would potentially put his family in danger, he will take note of it and treat you very poorly. His family is number one. In the third, I believe in the third episode, his son gets bitten. And he spends most of that disc trying to cover it up, trying to tell himself that the bite isn't what turns people, trying to explain, like, he's going to be okay. Just keep going. We're not going to worry about Duck. Don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine. His son eventually gets to the point where he is clearly on the brink of death, and death means reanimation. So his wife takes their son out to the middle of the woods to kill him, and she shoots herself in the head and kills herself, at which point you as the player need to come. You find Kenny and his slowly dying son, and you have to decide whether Kenny will put down his own son or if you will do it for him. If you make Kenny do it, he shoots his own son in the head and kills him, and then is horribly depressed for the rest of the game, or at least for the next episode. There's time lapses. If you decide you will do the deed, you have to point a reticle at him and pull the trigger. And his son is about 10 years old.
So here's what I'll say. I've always had a weakness for father-son stories. You know, Big Fish is my favorite movie.
So good.
Right? Great movie.
So good.
But because of that, I'm sorry, Billy, I'm going to have to go with Walking Dead on this one. Both compelling, but
I don't take offense.
Yeah, no wrong answers here, I feel like, you know? I'm going to go Walking Dead.
There's a bunch of stories I did not mention. Like, there's a lot of other big swings. But I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of stuff in The Last of Us. I guess the reason why it stuck with me is because I don't relate. I mean, okay, people outside of this podcast and gaming, they see me and they talk about me as a father figure. I don't have kids right now, but they tell me that I have like a dad aura. And my dad aura aligned much more with Joel than it did with Lee. That's why I had, it's got a special like connection for me. Anyway.
Okay.
So now we've got continue.
Now we're down to 3. Shadow of the Colossus, To the Moon, and The Walking Dead.
Oh God, we haven't even actually finished? Shit.
Tell you what, I can do Shadow of the Colossus quick. Let's knock this
Go
one out.
for it.
Straight. When you think about, if we're talking drama in the classical definition, what's the drama par excellence, right? It's Hamlet. And what's the defining moment of Hamlet? When everybody dies.
You're right.
And what happens in Shadow of the Colossus?
Everybody dies.
Shadow of the Colossus is Hamlet. There's my argument.
Okay, so I'm going to cross that out?
No, I'm going to fight for Shadow of the Colossus. Because me as the player connecting with Wander for an entire game and fighting for the single purpose. I mean, you want to throw out some like more Shakespeare analogies? How great is it that the girl dying on the altar reanimates just as the male lover fighting for her life is extinguished himself?
Pyramus and Thisbe.
Yes, that is pretty Pyramus and Thisbe. However, Shadow of the Colossus, I just don't think it hangs with To the Moon and The Walking Dead.
Well, you know what?
Like, it's dramatic.
If Pete and I both vote.
It's a good point.
You could just get shut out.
Come on.
Convince us otherwise, Gino.
Okay, fine. Shadow of the Colossus, it has a very strong story, but it really only has one or two big story moments where it actually engages in the art of storytelling other than through gameplay of killing these colossi, and I agree that there's a metaphor to killing the colossi. However, it's the same metaphor 13 times.
16. Get your shit right.
Fine,
Some
16
of them
times.
have wings.
Yes, some of them have wings, some of them go underground. But, like, none of... I don't know.
What
like,
are the other games? Shadow of the Colossus?
To the Moon and The Walking Dead.
Just tell me why you hate Shakespeare, Gino.
I don't hate Shakespeare.
Shakespeare was a hack, and then we can move on.
Look, you know what?
I feel
feel
like
like
scripts. He never wrote them.
I feel like you got to
Illuminati,
defend two
Illuminati.
games, and one of them's just
Dick
got to
jokes.
go. Because we're over here chilling on a horse, and
Shadow of the Colossus, like, there are really good moments at the end of that game, but the end of that game is really when it does almost all of its storytelling. It's really abstract, it's elegant, but I don't think it hangs with the dramatical bombs that To the Moon and The Walking Dead drops.
Tell you what,
feel like-
I could
Go
give
ahead.
it to you. I could give it to you for Walking Dead. I don't think I could concede Shadow of the Colossus for To the Moon. As
You don't
much as I
think-
voted for John for best character.
You don't think that the drama of John and his wife coming together? I guess if we had a best romance category,
And I think
maybe
you're,
we should have a best romance category.
I think you're discounting. Kyrie would just win that one too. I think you're just discounting as well the emotional impact of these Colossi murders.
I mean, it
feel you're
really
being
is a
little
murder.
dismissive of the Colossi.
I feel like To the Moon is a great story, but I wouldn't call it drama in the same sense that there is loss. I mean, now don't jump out and scream for like the first initial loss, like, you know, River. You actually have to fight for something, and it's taken from you.
In To the Moon, you have to fight for
No, because there's a
eternal
happy
love.
ending at To the Moon. Everything's okay in To the Moon.
Everything's not okay in Hamlet, Gino.
The song is
everything's not okay in Walking Dead. Everything's not okay in Shadow of the Colossus. You become
title-
a horned baby, and all of your ancestors
A
get
horned
exiled.
baby, Gino. A baby with horns.
Your horse almost dies.
Your
the
horn.
song.
Did you even see the Argo scene? You want to talk about drama? My heart stopped.
The song in To the Moon is Everything's All Right. That is the title song. But it's about them falling
I think
in
it's
love
time to
and then-
vote.
Time to vote? What?
I feel
Is it
like-
not To the Moon?
I'm
Fine.
voting
I'm crossing
right
up To
now.
the Moon, and I'm crying.
I'm voting
did
right
this.
now, casting my vote for Shadow of the Colossus.
I'm feeling a Shadow of the Colossus on this one. Do you hate
That's two
democracy
votes.
and Shakespeare, Gino?
I don't hate democracy. I'm circling Shadow of the Colossus as the winner, though I feel the listeners will agree with me. The listeners know.
Uh-huh.
For the record, I'm casting my vote for To the Moon
Fine. Whatever.
in protest. My single vote.
Okay.
Shadow of the Colossus is our best drama.
Go ahead.
Because Shakespeare.
Uh-huh.
Shakespeare.
And that soundtrack, though. Dope.
That's not the...
Guess what the next category is?
Best adventure.
What is it?
Oh, no,
Why don't
wait.
you announce it?
Soundtrack's two categories. All right, it's best adventure now.
There we go.
But when it's best soundtrack, guess who's coming back?
I was gonna say, do you think Shadow of the Colossus could just sweep the next few awards?
The next four categories.
I mean, I'm going to put Best Adventure Shadow of the Colossus. That's first nomination, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to nominate Child of Light.
Okay.
Well,
Pete.
I'm gonna toss out Valdez' story.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and I need to write these down so for the story, and then I'm gonna go ahead and throw out. I don't. Would the Talos Principle count?
I probably
Yeah, you
wouldn't
can
go
argue
out
for it.
Talos Principle. I feel like it's a good game, but
I'm gonna put up Psychonauts. I think that's an adventure.
Sure.
It's a mental adventure.
Mm-hmm.
An adventure through the mindscape.
Of Tim
Oh.
Schafer.
We've got.
Tomb Raider.
I don't have a passionate argument for Tomb Raider.
Me neither, but, you know, it would probably
I'm
consider...
gonna put it on the list.
Yeah,
things
it could
get
probably
repeated.
fall down quickly.
And then I'm going to immediately cross it off.
Yeah.
All right.
Solid game. It fits all the textbook definitions of adventure game, so it deserves a good nod, and I think it was done well, but we're looking for something more unique here.
All right, let me
Bioshock
start with
Infinite?
Bioshock.
No.
Well, we have 4, right now?
Yeah, but I mean,
What
just
do
because
we have?
we have Shadow of the Colossus, Child of Light, Valdis Story, and Psychonauts.
Who's going to get into the top 3 before those?
I don't like Bioshock Infinite better than any of those. At least for this category, I should say.
That's fair. The Last of Us also potentially. I don't know. I feel like The Last of Us it's treading a line between adventure and drama.
Well,
I really don't want too many. I really don't want too many like genre blending.
Okay,
I'm almost like tempted to say Psychonauts can't be here because it just won Best Comedy.
Then by that extension, Shadow of the Colossus can't be here because it just won Best Drama.
Well, drama and adventure are sort of
But that just leaves Child of Light and Valdis Story.
Okay.
Then I need to nominate Kingdom Hearts.
All right.
Because if Psychonauts or Shadow of the Colossus can't win this category, I feel like Kingdom Hearts is suddenly a player.
All right.
Take away 2 of the best games, that kind of mediocre game now becomes a real threat.
All of a sudden, when compared with the story of Child of Light and the story of Valdis Story, Kingdom Hearts, the drama between Sora and Riku suddenly becomes gripping.
Okay.
And there's King Mickey trying to save everybody.
Jack Skellington's there.
All right, so let's discuss. I actually really want to hear what Pete has to say about Valdis Story.
All right. So I didn't pick Valdis Story for the story, despite it being in the title. Well, not really the strong suit of the game. But when I think of an adventure game, it's hitting its marks, right? Like in the same way that, like I know, have you guys seen The Raid? The movie?
No.
Well, The Raid's probably the best fighting movie to come out in, let's say, the past 5 years. I'm not sure exactly when it came out. But the thing about The Raid is it's just a series of set pieces for the most part. There's not a lot of unifying story. And I feel like that's what Valdis Story is doing. The boss battles are really these set pieces that sort of drive the narrative forward. And when I think of adventure, that's what I want. I want these big, grand set pieces that are compelling, and then you just sort of move past it, right? So that's why I'm picking Valdis Story, because it has these set pieces I want, and I'm placing less emphasis on the story itself at this point.
Okay, I can roll with that.
Okay.
All right.
I think Valdis Story at least belongs here. So Billy, Child of Light.
So now, when I think about an adventure game, I want to be taken away from the norm. I want to be taken away from reality. I want to explore. I want to see a new world. I want to do new, exciting things. And Child of Light, that's basically the definition of this game. You're a character who is quite literally taken away in a dream state to another land. And you have the ability to fly, which allows you to explore and get to new places. And there's magic and there's monsters. And it's everything that a classic sort of children's story adventure would be. You think about stories like Where the Wild Things Are. You go to a different place, meet some monsters, make some friends, and you grow up. You have a sort of a coming of age experience. And Child of Light puts that forward. Now, I think Child of Light has some drawbacks. I think the combat system and the pretty, I wouldn't say scripted, but forced narrative in some ways takes a little bit away from Child of Light. Mm-hmm. And for games like Valdis Story and Kingdom Hearts, even though Kingdom Hearts narrative doesn't do much better, it's not quite as I'm trying to think of the right word.
Dynamic?
No, I'm saying like predetermined because of its genre. You know that a story
exactly how the story formulaic?
Yeah, it follows a formula. Thanks for helping me out with the terminology, but yeah, Child of Light kind of follows a formula. So I think it's going to fall off a little bit. But when I think about some of those core features of magic, mysticism, monsters, flying around different lands.
Lord of the Rings shit.
Exploring, yeah, Lord of the Rings shit, fantasy stuff. It's got your meat and potatoes there, and it does it very well.
All right, Kingdom Hearts. It is a magical adventure with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Goofy. You get to spend a lot of time running around with characters from your childhood. I put it on this list, but I can't make a passionate argument for it.
You can just refer back to the podcast we did on it, because I made the most passionate goddamn argument for this game ever. I'm not going to do it again, but shit.
All right, I think Kingdom Hearts is done. So let me make my best point for Valda's story over Child of Light. And I think they're both legitimate. Gino, you might be the rubber man on this one. But I think if we're looking at adventure, I think you inherently lose something when you have turn-based combat. I think there's just something inherently more adventurous about Valda's story's combat mechanics.
I disagree with that premise. However, I think I do like Valda's story as so here's my conflict. I like Pete's argument about Valda's story being a series of adventure and of boss fights that are these high action moments. There's a great sense of thrill in executing those boss fights and feeling in control of your character. And even though some of the drama can be a bit out there or a little, it's not super impactful, the actual emotional story weight, there is a sense of triumph and release that you feel playing that game that I never got out of Child of Light. However, there is a sense of wonder and whimsy to Child of Light that I really enjoyed, like the stone giant, and some of the different places you go are just breathtaking, and it seems like I would like to be in the world of Child of Light. Like, my imagination wants to be there. I would like to explore that place further. However, I enjoy being in the world of Valda's story and playing that better. And so that is the thing. I enjoy playing Valda's story more than I enjoy playing Child of Light.
Luckily, I'm also going to vote for Valda's story.
Hey, all right.
And so we got a clean sweep here. I mean, looking at some of the decisions you can make in that game, and they aren't super obvious at the start. It's like killing a boss versus sparing him, and he comes back later, or choosing to align with light or darkness, and fighting in this expertly designed Metroidvania world with great music. I mean, it's a whole package, and Child of Light does so much good stuff, but I think it follows its formula a little bit too hard. I mean, they both have formulas. Valda's Story is a Metroidvania game. Child of Light's, a turn-based RPG game, and I think Valda's Story stays true to its form and does new stuff a little better than Child of Light does. So I'm gonna go ahead and vote for Valda's Story for best adventure.
Very nice.
All right, so with that, let's take a little break. When we come back, we will be coming back with best soundtrack, and we will further go over our games of the year. So, in a little bit. Peace. And we're back with the Game of the Year discussions. Next up, we've got Best Soundtrack. So, what do we got for nominations?
Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay.
Easy pick.
I'm going to throw To the Moon on here.
Ooh, To the Moon's a good pick, too. It's a different kind of pick than Shadow of the Colossus, too. I'm trying to remember.
You're not going to put out Kingdom Hearts right now?
I think Kingdom Hearts belongs on here, too.
Kingdom Hearts. Was Child of Light's good? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
It was solid.
Yeah, it was good.
It was solid. I'm going to put Valda's Story back up.
If I can't remember, that should tell me something about the quality of it, shouldn't it?
I'm going to throw Undertale.
Not a jab at Pete, but I just feel like soundtrack isn't going to be on your personal high list of what you're looking for in a game.
No, not really on my radar.
I enjoy that. I'm not going to nominate Halo 3, but I enjoy that Halo 3 is not on the list.
Is not on the list?
Right now, no one nominated it. Does anyone have a passionate argument for the...
They lied to us. They weren't really Tibetan monks. They were just some guys from Bungie.
And I'm going to throw Final Fantasy VIII on this list.
Okay.
Sure.
It should be on there.
Fine. Whatever. Get your dirty Final Fantasy out of here.
We should have a most Roman numeraled category.
And the winner is Final Fantasy VIII. Actually, yeah, because Breath of Death 7 is another game with a 7 Roman numeral, and it doesn't even get high enough.
Yeah.
So let's see. What can we cut? So let me just say, Against Kingdom Hearts. It has a very strong soundtrack. Most of its soundtrack is replicating iconic Disney.
Yeah, they're pre-existing
songs.
properties.
Yeah, so I think we have to just cut it for being unoriginal.
True.
Like, there are some great original songs on Kingdom Hearts, but I think that the bulk of it is just adapting the Disney soundtrack library.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's fine.
All right. These soundtracks are real different, guys.
Sure. And I thought To the Moon was a compelling pick because it's a very different use of soundtrack. It's not just sort of ambiance. It's fully connected into the story of their relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's not so bad to have games like To the Moon, Valda's Story, and Shadow of the Colossus together. Was there another one on the list besides those
Final
three?
Fantasy VIII.
Get that shit out of here.
No. Because I have a surprise guest.
Do we?
Son of a bitch.
Is it Cloud? That's the only Final Fantasy character I can think of right now.
He wasn't in that game, but
let me try to.
Or Sephiroth.
I can respect the name drop.
Let me see if my surprise guest can come on. While my surprise guest may or may not be coming on.
Lion?
That's Squall.
Well, yeah, Leon in Kingdom Hearts, but Squall in Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay.
That game has an incredible breadth. So while we are maybe getting a surprise person,
maybe getting a surprise guest,
an actual human,
maybe
what?
Surprise witnesses.
Maybe we'll get them, or maybe it's a human.
Maybe both. Well, that might or might not be happening. I'm gonna say for Shadow of the Colossus, I think it's a great soundtrack, but it's a lot of ambient sort of stuff, and maybe. Billy, you've listened to the soundtrack more than me, but for me, it's a lot of stuff that I appreciate. I think it's high quality, but I don't remember particular songs.
I do. I remember the third Colossus song. I remember the 13th Colossus song. I remember the 16th Colossus song. I remember the opening score. And they stick with me because they set a tone. And as far as tone setting, Shadow of the Colossus cannot be touched here.
But do they all set the same tone?
No, they don't. Because all right, now let me take a step back. Are they similar in nature? Do they fit a scheme? Yes. A game like Valda's Story was composed by the same person or team, and they fit a model, right, of a Metroidvania-type soundtrack, but they're designed to enhance a world, right? So each of those songs has a different job. Enhance the Abandoned Gardens, enhance the Tagram Derelicts, enhance the Pit, these different worlds in Valda's Story. And Shadow of the Colossus does something similar in that regard by enhancing a specific fight. And it does it perfectly. Anyone who's played Shadow of the Colossus is probably sitting on the other end of this podcast going, yes, like more yes, go, go, go. Shadow of the Colossus, best soundtrack. And while I'm talking about it so much, I'm yet to go all in. Because I think about Valda's Story and I think, wow, like that soundtrack took me to a different place as well, and it put in so much work for each of those levels that I just can't ignore it.
All right. I'm just gonna play my. So, Pete, do you have any opinion on
On what
stuff, or-
our choices? I don't.
Yeah.
If adjudicating between Shadow of the Colossus and To the Moon, I think Gino's point is maybe a fair one. That Shadow of the Colossus does what it's doing very well. It's maybe a one-hitter kind of deal. Yeah, it's doing a thing.
I'm gonna. So, To the Moon is probably my. That's the one I'm probably gonna throw the most weight behind. I love Undertale. I think it is excellent. I think the soundtrack is pretty varied. Each of its songs try to go for different things, and it manages to set multiple different tones. By the end of the game, the last song, I think, is really triumphant when it needs to be. I think that it's amazing how they reuse themes to accentuate each of the different characters. I think it's really strong, but it just doesn't. It never moved me the way that To the Moon did. And Valda's story, it sounds a lot like kind of ripping anime guitar. It's a lot of ripping anime guitar.
No, it's not. You just didn't listen to the soundtrack.
In the boss fights.
No.
I remember it sounding a lot like not Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue.
That's boss fight theme, and there's like two or three boss fight themes, and they're just tweaked for the different boss fights. I'm talking about ambient world music. You think about there's nothing anime rippy guitar about the Abandoned Gardens, or what you call it, like the Frozen, or I forget the name. Fuck it, we'll just go to like the Ziggurat or the Engineer's Palace. Like, they're so different. The Pit is so different. All the songs in Valda's Story. I mean, let's just take a step back. If we're gonna have to throw out Shadow of the Colossus, I'm putting all my weight behind Valda's Story here. Every one of these soundtracks every one of these songs for its respective world puts in so much. I mean, it brings so much more to the table for that world. It's almost like the MVP.
I just
the art is good, the characters are good, but the music is just, it seals it in. It does everything that a Metroidvania game does with its music, and then it takes it a step further. I just can't tip my hat enough to the Valda's Story soundtrack.
I'm crossing out Shadow of the Colossus. Just
sadly, I might have to just concede there. But Valda's Story, come on. I think all right.
To the Moon, there's no high as Everything's All Right.
Sad piano
or the sad piano
can only get you so far.
And I think it gets you farther than any of the Valda's Story songs.
Man. Moody piano is fine, but having so many different sounds on one soundtrack do so many different things, no way. You're never going to convince me that To the Moon beats Valda's Story in soundtrack.
Then maybe I can convince you that Final Fantasy VIII beats To the Moon and Valda's Story. Maybe it beats both of them.
Negative.
What do you think about that?
Pete, save us here.
I vote
what do you think about that?
What?
I'm not even going to discuss Final Fantasy VIII. It's too many numbers.
It's got so many songs. Guys.
How many songs do you know?
It's got so many.
They're all MIDI, so we're not talking. They're not songs. They're files. They're like GIFs with sound.
No, they're not. They're CD. They are CD quality audio.
Okay. Can we get back to the real Pete, please?
I'm voting for To the Moon.
Oh, God.
Due to the connections to the story. Hey, Billy, we'll always have Shadow of the Colossus.
It's all right.
Shadow of the Colossus won Best Drama over The Walking Dead and To the Moon.
Because it deserved it.
You did that.
Okay, yeah, we did.
You have to live with that.
The war is not over.
I'm going to put that on my
team. Lost one battle.
My surprise witness does not seem to be available. So Final Fantasy VIII, I'm not going to be able to defend it by myself to two people who did not listen to any of it.
Nope.
It's very good.
But
the soundtrack's actually excellent.
Whatever.
I'll concede to that, sure. Whatever.
And the next category is...
So the winner of Best Soundtrack is To the Moon. Congratulations on your Marianas Trench Deep Listens Award.
You got to get a better name for that.
I think that's an excellent
No.
It's the deepest.
It is the deepest. What are you going to do?
We could do the First Cut Awards.
We could say the Baritone Awards.
No.
First cut's the deepest.
So next.
We're just going to have a different name for each of them. Okay, next up, hey, Billy. You know how that award made you real sad?
Yeah.
This next award's going to make you real happy.
Really?
Yeah, you know what it is?
No.
It's the Grindfather Award.
What's that?
It's your award.
Oh, really?
Now we get to highlight the things that are important to you in games, Billy.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the award for the game that you can grind the most and get your grinding delight.
Grind on me.
Grind on you.
Okay. I'm going to throw out the nominees then.
Do it.
I'm going to throw out Child of Light, Valda's Story, and let me look at the list here. Child of Light, Valda's Story,
Fallout 3.
Kingdom Hearts would probably go on the list, honestly, yeah.
Fallout 3 should probably go on the list.
I'm actually going to cut Fallout 3 here.
Right.
It's cutting it immediately.
Right. Yeah. Grindfather can make moves like that.
Cutting Fallout 3 here. I mean, I had fun.
Dota 2, you get to grind every game.
No, because I don't even want to talk about Dota 2. So look, I've got the 3. Here we go. Valda's Story, Child of Light, Kingdom Hearts. Let me talk about Kingdom Hearts first. Kingdom Hearts has a crafting system, lets you make better weapons, armor, and accessories. Cool. How does it do that? You get drops from enemies. There's also a chance for you to exploit specific enemies in specific ways to enhance your drop rates. All right, I'm down with that. Crafting system's kind of bad, and something taking a long time doesn't necessarily make it a good grind, right? There's more to a good grind than just taking forever and a day for it to get done. It's got to be a good grind and feel good during the grind and give you like an appropriate reward at the end, right?
I can't help but thinking about the dancing when Billy says this stuff, and it just makes it so much funnier to me.
Whatever floats your boat. Further, Kingdom Hearts had awesome secret bosses. You got to fight Sephiroth. You got to fight this Agrabah, like 4-armed like scarab thing. I'm not sure if that was Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2, but I can sort of bleed the franchise together because they both do the same thing, in those two games, 1 and 2. So I'm probably going to say one that was just in 2 and not 1. But you've got awesome secret bosses, and they're hard. They take it to the next level. If you don't have yourself statted or itemed up for that game, for that particular fight, you're going to be in trouble. So it takes heavy level acceleration, heavy item preparation for those secret bosses, and it's just a great grind experience. Next game, Child of Light. Child of Light has a skill tree. I loved completing that skill tree. I loved creating items that helped me complete that skill tree. I spent the entirety of the game crafting one item called the Princess Stone, which ramps up my EXP growth, just so on my next playthrough I can complete the skill tree faster. God damn, that just feels good in my heart.
The joy in your eyes, Billy.
Yeah.
However, Billy, I want to bring up an important factor.
What?
You did not bring up drop charts with either of those two games.
Let me talk about Valda's Story.
You did not ask us to spend time discussing drop charts with the other two games.
So, Valda's Story has not one playthrough, but 4. And they're all so different, right? Every character's got different items, different armor that's good for them, different armor tech trees you can follow. Or sorry, not tech trees, but like upgrade paths you can follow, different weapon upgrade paths. Every enemy drops some kind of collectible or crafting item, and every crafting item can be used for something. Plus, you've got secret bosses. You've got rankings, so you can spend repeat fight after repeat fight trying to get S rank. Oh man.
Okay, so should I just cross out the other ones and Valda's story wins?
So here's why it's hard. As far as most cyclical grind, Child of Light probably wins.
So should there be multiple grinding categories?
Because
so it's the grindiest.
Because like the harder you grind in Child of Light, the better you get at grinding. So it's like the most cyclical. Kingdom Hearts kind of rewards you the most for finding secret stuff.
So what you're saying is a game needs to reward you for grinding, but not with anything meaningful. Just things that make you grind more.
Just further grind.
No. See, that's why Child of Light's not going to win.
Okay.
Valda's story.
I thought you just had a philosophical realization about your life and the state of it. Like, this game, it's probably the best because it just tells me to keep doing what I'm doing forever.
You know how hamsters have wheels? Is there like a way we could build that, but for a person?
Valda's story wins because your grind pays off in a way that matters. You can grind 4 different times with 4 different characters, and it's not repetitive or as repetitive. Grinding by nature can be repetitive.
Drop charts.
And you've got incentives to strive for more, find extra boss battles, because if you find those secret bosses, you get stat buffs that help you for the rest of the game. You just kind of get a pat on the back for fighting the Kingdom Hearts bosses. I mean, I think you get some good crafting items or a lot of EXP or something, but
you do, but it
pays off more. Yeah, it pays off way more in Valda's story. Valda's story gets the Grindfather Award for being the best grind / replayability game that we've played this year.
Okay, Valda's story wins the Grindfather Award. Wins the first cut is the deepest Grindfather Award.
That chasing that dragon, that grindy dragon.
Yes,
award.
The game that is comparable to Heroin Award, Valda's story. So I actually have someone demanding a recount on our soundtrack. My surprise guest actually showed up.
Oh, okay.
What?
Surprise guest.
Hi.
We're waiting for the surprise guest to join the call.
Is that FDR? Is FDR your surprise guest?
Maybe.
That would
FDR has a very compelling argument.
I was going to that'd be a
Final Fantasy VIII. Hello.
From the grave I have ascended and resurrected myself upon thee, and I will bless thee with my presence and everlasting life and enlightenment to all whom have seen me. I am the one and only.
FDR.
All right, we've got Zombie Pie is back. You might have noticed him from the 2 bonus podcasts.
What is
the
this?
FF8 one and the
and
Pajama
the
Sam one.
Laptop fan that's playing in the background. I, Zombie Pie Chris Redacted, am here to be the guest of guests, the guest of honor, the kingmaker, Gina would say.
Yes. So
let me just say, thanks to the both of you for making a goddamn 3.5 hour Final Fantasy VIII podcast. That was fun to edit.
I missed out on that. Jesus.
Oh, the 3-hour podcast where my Wi-Fi died, and then we had to call again and save that from the precipice of dying. Oh, yeah, that was
The only
fun.
thing that makes me feel better was that I spent, it was a 3-hour podcast to edit. It probably took you guys 6 hours to make it.
Yeah?
yes.
Silver lining.
It was also 30 hours of my life that I had to put in to be able to discuss it, so there's also that.
So now you got to redeem yourself by letting Final Fantasy VIII mean something in this.
There were the 6 hours that I spent getting you back to the point where you could spend 30 hours. God damn it. Final Fantasy VIII wins.
Okay.
No, I can't do that. So best soundtrack. Zombie Pie, I brought you on because you said that the one thing about that game that you could unequivocally say was good was the soundtrack. And so I wanted you to make an impassioned argument for why Final Fantasy VIII should be our soundtrack of the year.
I don't have a dog in this fight because Shadow of the Colossus and Valda's story got kicked out, so you guys can just have at it.
Okay, make your impassioned argument. Go.
My impassioned argument is that it is wacky fun and it's Japanese craziness, and it brings a semblance of craft and passion and genius to an otherwise insane experience. It adds to the experience. There's a ditty where you do... There's a goddamn concert in the game, and you get to pick 2 options for your music, and one of them is an Irish jig in which you can have one of your characters dance for you. There's a faux homage to, like, 70s spy movies that plays when you are infiltrating a military base, and you're a bunch of teenagers. And then there's, like, crazy stuff when you go into space-time continuum. There's this just awesome, badass, like, guitar riff, just insanely good boss theme at the very end while you're just killing this eldritch demon, Cthulhu-like monster. It's amazing. It's great.
And there's this song, Eyes on You.
No, we're not using that as evidence. That is not evidence to suggest that.
No, that's not? Okay, fine. There's an opera at the beginning of the game.
There is an opera at the beginning of the game. Wait, no, that's Final Fantasy VI. You're messing me up here.
Pete.
Are we talking J-pop kind of craziness? Because I'm a big fan of J-pop and K-pop.
There is.
Okay.
There is J-pop craziness.
There is J-pop craziness, but again, that's the song that I didn't want to.
Oh.
It would sway him, though. Okay, so now do you understand? There's a song that it's just like a lonely saxophone in space. As time is melting away.
Let me start singing the lyrics to you to bring enlightenment.
No. All right, I'm gonna just I'm done.
This is some Kenny G bullshit right now, Gino.
It is Kenny G bullshit right now, and you're going to experience this as a real adult, and you're going to be an adult about this and realize how you're wrong by not selecting this as your
this
actual
means being
lyric.
a real adult. I'm putting the Master Sword back.
Hey, whenever I sang my songs on the stage on my own, whenever I said my words, wishing they would be heard, I saw you smiling at me. Was it real
singing,
or just my fantasy? Huh? You'd always be there in the corner of this tiny little bar. My last night here for you. Same old songs, just once more. My last night here with you. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Yeah?
No.
Come on.
Maybe no.
He rhymed, the song rhymes maybe with maybe. That's a sign of quality right there.
Ask Lil Wayne about rhymes.
We can't talk about it without bleeping out this podcast, so let's just not do it.
Or T-Pain rhyming Mansion with Wisconsin, my favorite example of rhyming in rap.
Good to know. So, Final Fantasy VIII doesn't win?
No.
Fuck. Okay, well, thanks, Zombie.
Well, you know what? Next time, I'm not going to develop your most highly downloaded podcast for your godforsaken website.
That's a goddamn mystery to me. How is that 3 hour?
No, it's not. It's up
marathon.
there, but it's not the most downloaded.
The hottest shit we've made.
Shadow of the Colossus, our first one.
Yeah.
That's because I tweeted your bullshit.
That's a real game right there.
We'll see. So maybe you'll be back on later for other things.
Thanks for
stick around.
Thanks for visiting.
Stick around.
Bring
we'll be back in a bit.
Love
Squall
you.
didn't win best character. It's fine. We'll talk to you later. Peace. Okay. So that was that interjection. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. That was going to bother me.
Oh my god. Zombie Pie, man, next. I love you. Cool guy and all, but man, that argument was just half singing and just half MIDI.
It was fun, though.
I had a good time. I can't deny it.
Okay. So next up, we have Pete's Award. Pete, what is your... Did you have a name for your award?
Let's think. We'll call it the Alan Turing Memorial Fight Against Anthropocentrism Award.
Great. I'm going to write this down as Pete's Award.
Okay. Oh my god.
And you're going to have to recite that again at the end. You're going to announce the winner.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So
who are the nominations for your weird... So why don't you define what your category is?
Yeah, the focus of the Alan Turing Memorial Fight Against Anthropocentrism Award is about who most usefully challenges the place of humans at the center of the universe. We all like to think we're the most important, we're special, we're wonderful, everything revolves around us. I'm going to say who challenges that most effectively. So we have 3 nominees. Right? First two are obvious. Last one's a bit of a sleeper pick. So our three choices are Talos Principle, Thomas Was Alone, and Shadow of the Colossus. So here's what I'll say about these three. Talos Principle is perhaps the most obviously challenging anthropocentrism, right? It's sort of asking, in line with Turing, what would it take for a machine to be conscious? Can a machine have consciousness and sort of in having consciousness establish a humanity? The problem with Talos Principle is it conflates the two. In order to be conscious, you need to be most human. You need to be a human individual. Thomas Was Alone does it a little bit better, right? We're not talking about humanoid androids here. We're talking about squares. But even so, the main goal is still to escape, cyberspace, live with the humans. We're still dealing with very Western humanist ideals, compassion, teamwork, those sorts of ideas. But then we have Shadow of the Colossus. And Shadow of the Colossus asks us, in a world where there are colossi, what's the value of a human? Not much. Not much indeed. So, whereas Shadow of the Colossus doesn't have a lot to say about perhaps cognition or consciousness from a philosophical perspective, I think it is still the most useful challenge of anthropocentrism, because it positions colossi as perhaps the most majestic, most valuable, most worth preserving life form in a world that does include humans. And that's why at least my vote for the Alan Turing Memorial Fight Against Anthropocentrism Award goes to Shadow of the Colossus.
And the winner for Pete's Award.
Thank you. Thank you.
No,
people are weeping.
No,
Children.
no contest.
The winner clearly is Shadow of the Colossus. How can we even argue with that?
No, I don't think there's any way you could.
Okay, so the winner of the... Say it again.
Alan Turing Memorial Fight Against Anthropocentrism Award
is Shadow of the Colossus. And next up, we have my award. The Excellent Elegance in Ephemeral I can't do all the E's.
Sorry. Alliteration's the tackiest device there is, Gino.
That's assonance. Not always appropriate.
Okay, fine. The Excellence in Game Design Award. The elegant... I said the
Gino Award.
Most elegant game design.
It wouldn't even be a good acronym. It would just be E Award.
Yes, the E Award for excellent, elegant game mechanics and game design. So I'm going to go ahead and nominate Psychonauts, the clairvoyance mechanic. I'm going to nominate Thomas Was Alone, the conflation of story with jumping and size and shape and color. I'm going to nominate Kingdom Hearts. Nope, just kidding. I'm going to nominate the Talos Principle for the conversations with Milton being a determinant of your humanity and a way to challenge your own beliefs. And I'm going to nominate Shadow of the Colossus for the metaphor of killing the Colossi. Shadow of the Colossus always gets nominated. And I'm going to nominate Pajama Sam for just the carrot existing.
Okay, sure.
That's not true.
Pajama Sam for
loses.
Carrots.
For the carrot. So
break it down for us.
Shadow of the Colossus. It is largely one metaphor, the same metaphor, but is an excellent one, that you are bringing yourself to kill these majestic creatures, and in doing so, the game makes you feel a sense of remorse and a sense of gravity in taking the lives of these majestic creatures. And so it manages to convey a level of story, a level of just gameplay, like fun, and a weight to this act that could be so trivial and would be in so many other games. And it manages to do so much of its storytelling and narrative work through gameplay. It's just excellent. It does so much with so little. Without saying, it's so much show, almost no tell. So Shadow of the Colossus, certainly excellent. I forgot to nominate Undertale for its combat system.
Okay.
Undertale, a lot of the same exact things as Shadow of the Colossus. It manages to convey a lot of information through moving a little heart around shooty objects.
Got like 8 nominees now. Let's work it.
Yep. So then we've got Thomas Was Alone. It is hyper efficient in characterizing each of the characters in the game just by shape and size and color and jump. And maybe they have an extra power, but it manages to
float or gravity.
Yes, convey everything you want to know about a character. You can see it by looking at them, and then they line up that visual appearance and that gameplay style with their personality almost perfectly. And I think that elegance, using all parts of the buffalo, I love it. Psychonauts, clairvoyance, it is, again, a large metaphor.
Clairvoyance is so good.
It lets you see the world through other people's eyes, and it communicates to you that seeing through someone else's eyes actually means something. They physically see the world differently than Raz does, and in doing so, it conveys a pretty heavy idea about how much perception and how much our own brains can affect how we see the world around us. So I love that one. And that's all of them, right?
It's your list, bro.
You got to keep track of this shit, dog.
Yes, that's my list.
All right.
And then Pajama Sam, there's a carrot, and he's awesome. Pajama Sam's not going to win, but carrot. I'm going to say it as many times as I can. And the winner is... I'm torn. Is it Psychonauts?
Can we help you at all?
Is it Undertale?
What can we do to help, Gino?
Yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus is excellent. All these games are so good. I love all these mechanical things. I'm going to go with Psychonauts. Weird, I know.
Yeah,
I
right?
agree.
Thriller.
I think clairvoyance puts in a shit ton of work.
I think that clairvoyance, it's not only that clairvoyance puts in so much work, so much of it is exploratory. You did not have to see it, but if you use clairvoyance, you start to see that the world is there's actually a lot more mechanical layers going on with the world than you originally thought. I think clairvoyance, it teaches a lesson that games don't often try to teach. And so Shadow of the Colossus, like imbuing weight to your actions when it is usually used for combat or used for something very mechanically focused, it makes sense. It moves the game forward. You have to interact with Shadow of the Colossus's mechanics, Undertale's mechanics, the mechanic that I highlighted, and they are both elegant. Same thing with Thomas Was Alone. They're very elegant, but I think that there is something beautiful about creating this extra elegant mechanic that most players won't even realize that you have hidden this layer of depth behind it. So I have to praise Clairvoyance and Psychonauts because it is such a deep, rich mechanic that no one has to see. You can easily completely miss the part that I love about that game, about that mechanic.
Fair enough.
And I think that deserves rewarding. So the winner of my Excellence in Elegant Game Design award is Psychonauts for Clairvoyance. So the next award, Billy, can you write that while I write down? Because I was talking, I couldn't be writing.
What?
Can you say our next category? Because I'm writing down.
Yes. So our next category is Worst Story.
So just to get a clarification here, would something like Dota 2, which has no story, qualify for the Worst Story Award?
Oh, it has a story.
Okay,
Shut up, Pete.
we don't want to know what Dota's story is. It exists. It's garbage, but we don't actually care.
Does Dota have a story in the same way that like Tekken always had a story? Is that pretty much how it is?
Yeah, kind of.
Except with more paragraphs.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm not going to talk about it unless someone's going to nominate it, and I'm not going to nominate it. I'm going to nominate Until Dawn.
All right. I'm going to nominate Kingdom Hearts.
What?
I hate to say it, but go on.
I'm also going to nominate Final Fantasy VIII.
Let's put
And hang on a second. I played that game for about 6 hours, and I just had nothing else to do with it.
Which one? FF8?
Yeah. And I bet you I didn't even get to the best worst part.
Best worst part.
I'm gonna nominate Halo 3.
Good pick. It's a good pick.
So let's talk.
Probably put Tomb Raider on there too.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad enough. Tomb Raider is too middle of the road.
Tomb Raider has too many things it did right.
It's just competent.
I'm gonna take a smack at Until Dawn. I did it in the last time we talked about it. I'm just gonna keep shitting on this game some more. Take every cheesy cliche teen horror movie you've ever heard of. Take any of the good parts out, and just kind of like mush it all together and add like a weird monster that no one's heard about, and you basically have Until Dawn.
But it is very competent. It is very mediocre in its story. It is a teen horror story. It does not go full crazy in the way that these other games on this list do. I feel like it is like Tomb Raider, except you don't like it.
It by nature is just, it really doesn't get any lower than this. There's
nothing in the world.
I understood less about Final Fantasy VIII and care more about its story than I care about Until Dawn. I actually care more about Dota's story than Until Dawn's story.
But Kingdom Hearts, you can make the same argument about Kingdom Hearts. If you took all the like friendship is magic,
all right, if you go full Kingdom Hearts
all together,
you're gonna get.
That's the even worse part about it. Is it's like
that's the best part.
17 games, like different platforms. There's just so much useless story.
The best part is that it's just all of this artifice to tell that light is better than darkness, and friendship is magic.
I think it might even have the same level of like bullshit capitalized nouns as Halo.
It does.
Like the Heartless, the Dark.
Which brings us to Halo 3, which has the Gravemind just kind of talking in your ear going like, "Oh, light, life and death. Where does one begin and the other end?" Just all the time, that kind of stuff. What happens in that game, I'm not really sure.
There's a ring.
For most of it. There's a ring. You need it to fire or not fire.
I think you're of it, if I remember correctly.
You go to New Mombasa, and that's a great name for a place, but other than that, I don't know. That game's like it's a bad story, but I don't think it punches with Kingdom Hearts or Until Dawn or FF8.
Because at least it's fairly contained.
Yeah. And Halo 3, like, it's schlocky, but it's like it's a mediocre action movie story in a game that just doesn't care.
Yeah.
So we've got Kingdom Hearts, Until Dawn, and FF8. I think Until Dawn should not be on this list. I don't think it punches with these other two. I think it is perfectly serviceable. It is just a genre that you don't care about.
I have not had a disdain for a game more than I just lacked any care about Until Dawn. I can't. But it's so bad. I can't.
You acknowledge
can't make thoughtful sentences about it.
The highest it ever could have gotten, because it is a horror game, was 7 out of 10, because you're deducting 3 whatevers just for it being horror.
What would our 3 shovels, I guess?
Yes.
3 Wendigos.
3 Wendigos out of 10.
I think I don't know anything about Final Fantasy VIII. Like,
well, good.
Nothing. So my vote.
We have a surprise witness.
Another. FDR's back.
Because we are talking about Final Fantasy VIII, we need our Final Fantasy VIII expert.
Just stick around.
Well, hello again.
No.
We have Final Fantasy VIII has come up in another category.
This time it's worst story.
Guys, give me this. Please. Jesus demands it.
Go for it.
Okay, explain why. Billy just tried to explain why Until Dawn's the worst story. His answer is basically he hates horror
a lot. I think was the thesis of his argument.
I just
Yeah,
I
and he
can't. I can't.
You just can't.
It is currently in a 3-way battle. Let me inform you. It is fighting with Kingdom Hearts and Until Dawn.
Okay,
We crossed Halo 3 off the list.
Okay. Are you ready for what I believe to be one of the worst plot twists in video game storytelling history?
Sure.
Make it happen, Captain.
Okay, so there's multiple plot twists that are pretty terrible. The very first thing that you need to realize is that the game starts out with you being a teenager that is working to become a child soldier in a private military group. And he's super excited to do his first test, kind of like his SATs, but his SATs is going into a battlefield killing motherfuckers. Okay?
He needs to liberate a city.
He needs to liberate a city from a professional army, and they're all children and teenagers, and they're fighting actual soldiers. And they're being great somehow, arbitrarily. Someone's watching them and doing nothing as they die. And I think hundreds, but probably not, because it's a video game. It's T for teen, but it's the first plot point is you preparing for a test that turns out to be you charging into a battlefield and having to fight a robot spider. I had to fight a robot spider. It almost broke me. And then the second thing, you find out that the school that you're in can fly. And your school can fly, but no one knows how to control it. So you turn it on and you just crash into this island that's in the middle of the ocean, and nobody can get to it. The only way you can get to the island is if you use your ship, your flying school ship. Or
why can the school fly?
I'm still talking here. The only way you can reach this island in the middle of nowhere is by walking on the railroads, which don't work on this certain part of it. You have to walk on the railroads and then jump into Fisherman's Horizon. It's actually called Fisherman's Horizon. And it's populated by hippies who are steampunk hippies, and their entire island is made out of metal and steampunk and that sort of thing.
And solar power.
And you go to this island, and for some reason, the game decides to stop and hold a concert for you. And then there's a concert for you, and everyone's like, hey, we are holding this concert for you. Here's the forced female protagonist, or love interest for the protagonist, and you guys are going to go on a date while this just story stops, while an evil sorceress plans to dominate the entire world. And so that happened. But I'm not done yet. You have this character.
He's on disc 2.
I'm only on disc 4. There's 4 discs. And then there's this character named Selfie, and she likes trains, and she sings to you about how much she loves trains. She sings to you. She sings that I love trains. And I believe her words are just fly away, but trains don't fly. Trains do not fly. Tell me if you know of a train that can fly.
That's a great point. How many characters are there in this game? There's 6, right?
Many characters in this game, and they're all comic relief characters.
Does the Polar Express fly?
The protagonist is a jackass. And there's a character that goes up to him and is like, I am dealing with some real heavy emotional shit right now, and I need some emotional support right now. I was wondering if you could provide that. And do you know what he says to her? If you need to talk to something, talk to a wall. He says this to her as she's clearly indicating to him that she's experiencing emotional breakdown right now. He says to go talk to a wall.
But how are these characters related to one another? Why are they all together?
Oh, well, it turns out they lost their memories. And they forgot that all of the characters used to be orphans in the same orphanage, and they had been childhood friends 10 years ago. And because if you use the summons, the animals and the horrible deities that you can summon in combat and also give you special abilities, they slowly but surely destroy your memories. But everyone in the game actually used to be childhood friends 10 years ago, but they forgot. And so they're destined to come together. Despite forgetting who all of them are, they come together and they realize that they used to be friends. Despite the fact that these monsters destroy their memories, so how is it that, I all of a sudden remember? How is that possible? I don't know. That's not how memories work. You can't just all of a sudden experience this trigger and then all of a sudden you can remember all of the stuff. And so they realized that they had been friends for 5-7 years, and then they just forgot. And so when they, like, Selphie joined the party, it's like, oh, here's this crazy girl that used to like trains. We totally don't remember that she used to be this childhood friend of ours 10 years ago. And then there's this other guy who was in a different garden, like, miles away.
Oh, the schools are called gardens.
And the schools are called gardens. Okay?
Oh, also, they stay on Earth, though, right?
No, they don't. They go to space. Do you want to know what the moon is made out of? The moon is made of monsters. The random encounters that you experience in the game, those monsters come from the moon. And the moon is entirely populated by monsters.
But they stay on the moon, right?
No, they go to a space station. And do you want to know what's at the space station? The evil sorceress before the main antagonist has been locked away into a sarcophagus right next to a space station, right next to the monster planet. Huh, that's a really bad idea, having these two things right next to each other, right? You probably want to get those as far away as possible, or maybe send that evil sorceress to the nearest sun or black hole. No, they have the evil sorceress right next to the monster moon full of monsters that want to eat them. And then, all of a sudden, your love interest Squeeze character gets possessed by the evil sorceress that actually wants to take over the other sorceress. There's two sorceresses right now, but oh wait, your love protagonist, your character, has now become a sorceress because the other sorceress, the third sorceress who'd been possessed by another sorceress that wants to take control of another sorceress, has now become a sorceress. Do you got me here? Do you understand what I'm trying to say right now?
It sounds like a Russian nesting dolls of sorcerers.
One of them is the girl you want to sleep with and get married and get your hands all up on. There's a sorceress that's in a sarcophagus in outer space that was imprisoned.
Orbiting the moon!
Next to a moon populated by evil aliens that want to eat you. And then there's a third sorceress that has control over time, but isn't currently physical. She's just possessing other people's. So
she lives in the future!
Oh, please.
She lives in the future. She lives in the future, people. There's time travel, space travel, and there's children that are fighting for a private military group that's trying to become child soldiers.
I can't take it anymore.
The monsters fall from the moon onto the planet, and they catch the sorceress, and they bring her to Earth. And then the fourth disc is in a time-compressed state where all times exist in one time.
And the winner is?
Final Fantasy VIII wins Worst Story.
Jesus
Why do you
Christ.
like this game so much, Gina?
It's the best and the worst.
Man, there's a scene where the main character, Squall, just says, man, fuck it, this is a weird world. And he picks up his girlfriend, and he just starts booking it. He just picks her up and starts running. You don't know where he's going, he's just running. And he's just running away, and he's like, oh man, I just realized that this is a terrible idea. And then he all of a sudden realizes that all his friends are there, even though it doesn't make sense that they would know that he would be going there. Did I remember
Okay.
Has Gino written it down yet? Does that mean
yes, I wrote it down.
Does that mean
I wrote it down. Okay.
It's true? Oh, God.
Yes. Thank you, Zombie Pie.
Jesus.
Thank you.
I could go on.
We might have you.
There's
we
Please,
might have
God.
you back.
Talk about
Don't.
triple triad, and we could talk about how you trade cards.
Bye-bye.
Wait, why can just one point? Why can the school fly? Or how does the school fly?
So the school was built atop an old fallout shelter that was created by an ancient society.
Are you telling
And so-
me that Final Fantasy VIII is the sequel to Fallout 3?
So missiles were going to destroy the school because you try to assassinate a sorceress.
Oh, so you mean
And when
Fallout
do
4
that-
then?
When you do that, she tries to launch missiles at your school, and so you get back to the school, you try to evacuate it, but you can't get it evacuated in time, but it turns out there was a secret basement level that no one knew about, and you go down there, and there's like a switch, and you hit the switch, and it turns out then like magical energy encompasses your school.
Gotcha.
And like
Magic
there's a giant
levitation.
ring.
Okay.
There's a ring that was like floating around the top of your school, and it slowly descends, and as it descends over your school, the school transforms into a giant floating ship.
For the love
And then
of all
you float
things
away.
holy, can we please be done with this
Yes.
topic?
Worst story is Final Fantasy VIII.
Clearly.
Sure.
Worst story is Final
I don't
Fantasy
think it even... I mean, after the first minute, I didn't think it really had any opposition anymore.
No. I just needed you to understand.
We needed to know.
I'm
Yes.
ready to go play Until Dawn.
Okay.
Best story.
Best
Until
mechanic.
Dawn.
Best story Until Dawn. Next up, we've got Best Mechanic.
Best
Although-
single mechanic?
Could we do would Valdis Story's combat be too large for a mechanic?
I will tell you.
I think yes.
Valdis
that
Story's
counts.
skill cancel would definitely be a good candidate because that's my nominee.
Yeah, that would be if we had to reduce it from combat to something smaller. Skill cancel would have been my vote.
Yep, I'm gonna say Psychonauts Clairvoyance.
Good pick. Thomas Story's jump. Thomas Was Alone's jump. Excuse me.
Yep.
Until Dawn's quick time events.
Okay.
Igniculus from Child of Light. Changing the time of real-time combat. Pretty cool.
Yep.
It was pretty annoying everywhere else, but in fights, I used Igniculus to the maximum extent.
I want to throw in the junction system from Final Fantasy VIII.
I want to throw out the junction system from Final Fantasy VIII.
I'm going to throw in Final Fantasy VIII's junction system.
How long can we keep this going for?
No. If we have another...
I'm not going to call him in.
Dear God.
Just because it's not going to win, what is the junction system for Final Fantasy VIII?
Don't!
Okay, I can do this really quick. I've explained this very quickly. It is the central combat. The way that you level up in Final Fantasy VIII, leveling all enemies scale to your level. So in order to actually gain relative strength, you take magic in that game instead of being like something that costs X amount of MP is treated like an item. You can have up to 100 uses of a spell, and you can take that spell and apply it to your different stats to boost them. So like if you have 100 cure spells, you can apply that to your HP to make your HP jump by a set number. So the way to break that game is not actually to grind levels and to play it for hours and hours and hours. It is to get good spells and then never level up again, because the enemies never stay relatively weak and your party stays super strong because the spells are what dictate your strengths, not your level.
Okay.
And then
we can go ahead and cross it off now.
What?
Yeah.
Just
knock that down right there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Arena.
I crossed it out. And there was one thing I wanted.
If it was about Final Fantasy VIII, you can just skip it.
It wasn't. It was about the grind rails or the skyhook in Bioshock Infinite.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I'll entertain that thought for a second.
Okay, so I think that's a good list.
What are we at right now? Igniculus.
We have
skill cancel
right now.
Yeah.
Valdis Story skill cancel. Clairvoyance, Psychonauts. Thomas Was Alone, jump. Until Dawn, QTEs.
Yeah, cross that off.
Cross out Until Dawn. Bye.
Igniculus, Child of Light.
We can probably cross out Igniculus.
Yep. And Skyhook, Bioshock Infinite. So the Skyhook, Billy, are you familiar with the Skyhook?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the Skyhook really adds a level of speed to an otherwise plodding game. Mm-hmm. It creates a real sense of momentum and verticality to a game that could have lacked it. Moving around on the Skyhook and shooting from the Skyhook was my favorite way to play. My favorite way to play was definitely jumping on Skyhook, jumping off as quickly as possible, and just scooting around. And it made shooter combat that could have otherwise been rote quite entertaining. So I think it belongs on the list.
I think it's going to go off pretty quick because I think that any mechanic that has to do like damage recovery, it's not going to be what we want on this list. I think we want something that like shines out for its ingenuity and taking something to the next level, not doing damage control.
I think there's a level of stylishness, just like the skill cancel in Valdis Story, that you're doing to execute.
Sure.
You don't have to use the Skyhook, but using it to style on people and play a game that could be played very straightforward, add some new juice to it. I think that it's worth considering. But I'm cool with crossing it off because I think Valdis Story skill cancel is better. I think Clairvoyance is better. And I think that Thomas Was Alone to jump is also better. So next, I think Thomas Was Alone's jump Do we have a passionate defense for that? I really like it.
I like
really
it too. I will say no for the following reason. Someone said, I wish I had the quote. Someone said Thomas Was Alone's jump was like the best programmed jump ever made in a game.
Yeah, I read that quote too.
Yeah,
I could agree with
It's
that.
not that. I don't need the quote for what I'm trying to say. So I'll say that it didn't really shine for me, honestly. As far as jumps go, it felt too mechanical. I want it to be a little bit. I want it to be a little more. I don't know. I guess I want to have slightly worse jump. It's hard to say it like that, but it makes me feel like I'm playing a game more than playing like a Flash game more.
I just think that Thomas Was Alone's jump does so much mechanically to both mechanically and narratively for each of the characters that it just does so much.
I've used the phrase "put in work" a lot in this podcast because that's what I'm trying to talk about. Is like certain things are carrying so much more workload, and Thomas Was Alone's jump does that. It carries so much workload.
And I guess this is my elegance in game design, like category again, sort of.
Yeah.
But here I feel like Thomas Was Alone's jump. I guess it's not that.
Is it really its own like mechanic though? I have a hard time fitting it in with the other
two that are so
different. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's how much weight you want to add to narrative in this case. Because I feel like in Valda's story, executing like a skill cancel properly
doesn't do anything for the narrative.
No, but it's just so satisfying from like a mechanical standpoint. Where like executing a jump in Thomas Was Alone, it just doesn't really have that same visceral pleasure. Yeah, like it obviously does more for the narrative, but it doesn't have the same mechanical satisfaction.
And I think clairvoyance, you don't have to do clairvoyance on every creature or every NPC in the game, but you benefit from it. If you master or get everything you can get out of clairvoyance, then you've enhanced your gameplay experience. If you can get everything you can get out of skill canceling, you've enhanced your game experience. If you get everything you can get out of Thomas Was Alone jump, you've just gotten to the end of the game.
But the thing is, jumping in games is one of the seminal ways to interact with a game. And to take that established form and give it meaning, not just like give it new meaning, giving meaning at all beyond progressing. I think that there's something about that. It's like someone, saying that, paragraphs can have meaning, and people have been reading them for forever, and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that this could have meaning. It's something so fundamental to how games are developed, and it's so much more impactful here than it had ever been.
Yeah, it's like,
to me, anywhere else.
It's like narrative poetry. Like before everybody was just looking at the words, then E.E. Cummings came along and he's like, but what about the shapes? And then he arranged them in weird patterns.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go all the way.
One.
Pete, are we going to let Thomas Was Alone jump? Take it?
I have to go with Valda's story skill cancel. Just because when I think mechanic, I want something that's mechanically satisfying.
Me too.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I think that it is very mechanically satisfying, and I think that that's why we have a best mechanic category and my elegance in game design category.
Let me toot its horn for just 1 second.
Okay, toot its horn.
Valda's story skill cancel is so simple. The controller input is just you press down, and a skill cancel happens. But what can you do with that? If you're in midair, it takes you immediately to the ground. In fighting game terms, that's amazing. Every fighting game wishes you could just instantly go to the ground from an air combo and start the combo over again.
Just like Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. It's also, if you push left or right, it gives you invincibility frames while dashing. They can be used outside of combat as like your run animation, as like a type of mobility enhancement. You need to perfectly use skill cancels to get special items by using these like timed trial like you press a button, a gate opens, then you got to get to it within 10 seconds or else it closes on you. And if you don't perfectly use your skill cancels, you're going to miss it. So it actually kind of reminds me of a totally different game, Dust Force.
Yes, it is exactly.
Oh, it's so Dust Force, and that game is so good.
Dust Force.
And then when you actually use it in combat, you need to use all of it in one. Perfect timing, getting to the ground, resetting your combos, perfectly using invincibility frames. I mean, one mechanic that, if used perfectly, raises the skill ceiling so much. It's no contest for me. It just blows through the skill ceiling with skill canceling. It skill cancels the skill ceiling.
All right.
Okay.
Compelling.
So that is very cool. The winner of our best mechanic is Valdis Story's skill cancel. Next up, we have worst mechanic.
The items, like the item buying and combining in Dota 2.
The shop.
Dota 2, and I'm just going to write down Dota 2. Dota 2 is Dota 2. I'm going to go ahead and say the jump in Psychonauts. It's a little floaty.
I love it.
It can be a little bit finicky, and you can just, especially on the last level, when you're really asked to do precise things, it can be not great.
I'm going to say butterfly effect in Until Dawn.
Sure.
This is sort of a cliche at this point, but I'll say driving controls in Halo 3.
Ooh. Controversial.
What else was bad?
I'm going to say the Trinities in Kingdom Hearts.
They were. I don't think they were so bad as much completely unnecessary and made me restart an entire game.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to say Trinity. I'm going to say the junction system in Final Fantasy VIII.
Didn't you just vote for bad?
It's best and worst. Because remember all those nice things I said about it?
Yeah.
The game doesn't teach you any of that shit.
You just got to know
appropriately. You just kind of have to figure it out. And so if you don't know it, remember that part where I said you don't have to grind?
Yeah. You just got to grind.
If you play that game like it's a regular RPG, you just get destroyed. And you can't beat it. So I'm going to add that there, and then I'm going to immediately cross it off because it's not actually the worst. And is there anything else that jumps out at you guys?
Worst mechanic?
I don't think so.
Child of Light, I don't think there's anything truly terrible. Tomb Raider.
Nah.
Tomb Raider's just getting forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, it's a forgettable game. Maybe it'll come back for the buildings, Ramon.
I would say the puzzles in Riven. Yes, that belongs here. I'll do this. I don't need my assist.
The sliding puzzles into the moon, they were just, they didn't do anything for the story at all.
Oh, the little
flip tile puzzles.
When you had to activate the memory.
Yeah,
box.
it's pretty garbage. Just could have done anything else.
I think that's a good list. I'm going to cross off Dota 2's Dota 2-ness. Because
I want it to. I just want somebody to acknowledge how terrible it is. Can we just all take a moment to agree it's terrible?
I will say it's convoluted.
Terrible, and I can elaborate on its terribleness. Just give me 30 seconds.
All right, yeah.
So,
start the clock.
The intro player, you open up Dota 2's shop, and it doesn't make any fucking sense.
No.
First of all, the default way it's set up, I think, is in rows and bars with the names fully spelled out. And you got to click on these little symbols to go through, oh, it's a magic item. Oh, it's a defense item. Oh, get that shit out of here. You want to be looking at the entire list just so you can sort of hover around and just see, oh God, what does this item do? Do I want more agility? Does that make me run faster? What kind of boots do I wear? This is what the new player is thinking. Do I need to buy 2 boots? One for each foot? The item only shows one boot. I mean, do I need 2? It's never intuitive what items to buy unless you've read some walkthrough or some guide for every single character or hero in Dota.
There are like 4,000 of them.
Yeah, there's over 100, and they all have different item builds. And you have to build your late game items, the items that you want. You can't just build them straight up. You have to buy their components. And each of their components does different things. And sometimes they're entirely useless until you make the finished product. They all have different little names and purposes, and it's just hot bullshit. But it's the whole reason why that game can promote its best selling point, which is that every single game is different. There's no 2 games of Dota alike. Because then one of the things is there's over 100 heroes. There's like 1,000 different item combinations for each hero. And,
Yeah, I mean, that's also true about Tetris, though. And, you can just pick up Tetris.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll play Tetris next. All right, whatever. We can cross it off. I wanted to bitch about Dota for a little bit. Now it's been...
Okay. Dota 2, off. Butterfly Effect and Until Dawn, I think it doesn't actually impact that much. It's just a name for a theme, a storytelling theme.
I just wanted to say more bad things about Until Dawn, but I think I'm bored with that.
I want to cross that off
bye.
because I don't want to hear you say
bye.
more bad things about Until Dawn.
I'm just happy to just disregard it.
The driving in Halo 3, I think it's not great, but it's not as terrible as some of the other things on this list.
So what are we at now? What's left?
We've got the Trinities in Kingdom Hearts. We've got driving in Halo 3. We've got the jump in Psychonauts. We've got the puzzles in Riven, and we've got the puzzles in To the Moon. I think the puzzles in To the Moon are inoffensive.
Yeah, they don't hurt my feelings. And neither does Psychonauts jump.
Yeah, it's annoying, but it's not as imprecise.
Because I'm pretty sure its jump actually does something cool for the game. Like, once you get, once you get, what's like the ball jumpy ability?
Levitation?
I'm not sure if it's that or not, but...
It's levitation.
Yeah, well, whatever it is...
It's levitation.
Doesn't it allow some of the players to speedrun and break the game?
Yes.
Yeah, so...
But that's not the jump.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be like that without, I think, the jump's other mechanics. I mean...
being so floaty.
Yeah, its floatiness is garbage for, like, standard play, but the fact that it allows people to speedrun it and break the game in other cool ways, I think, takes it right off the list of being a bad mechanic.
Just because people who are actively trying to break the... Whatever. It's fine. That's fine. It's weird because your momentum doesn't stop. Your forward momentum doesn't stop when you hit the ground as long as you keep jumping.
I mean, you need that for Super Mario 64 to break the game.
Okay, so now we've got driving in Halo 3, the Trinities in Kingdom Hearts, and the puzzles in Riven.
The Trinities annoy me more than the driving does.
Yeah, I can get behind Trinities being pretty dumb.
Okay, so now let me tell you why the puzzles in Riven are the worst.
Okay.
And why they should win.
All right.
Riven is a CD game.
All right, let's just stop right there. Pete, do you want to just give it to Riven?
Well, I feel like we should at least hear it. Well,
all right.
Hear the explanation. It is a CD game. There are 5 islands, I believe, in Riven. Yes, 5 islands in Riven. Each of the islands has clues for 2 major puzzles. There is one puzzle I like to call Satan's Baby Choo Choo, and another puzzle I like to call the Devil's Tiddlywinks. Satan's Baby Choo Choo is a puzzle where there is a circle of animals. You eventually stumble across this circle after doing a bunch of other puzzles and exploring all these islands, and it's a circle with animal pictures on stones. Like you're in the center of the circle and you're surrounded by animal pictures on stones. You need to pick the correct animals in the correct order to progress in the game. The way that you find out which animals you need to pick are there are just small eyes on certain parts of the world that you have to flick, and on one side there is a number in a made-up numerical system that is unique to this game, and the stone eye makes a sound when you flick it, and each stone eye has a different sound. You need to figure out that each of those sounds corresponds to animals on those pictures, And the order in which you need to select the animals is the number on the back of the eye.
But surely these animals must make very distinct sounds.
They make really weird sounds that don't exist because none of these animals are real. They are all made-up animals that are unique to this game, sound completely different, and if you just hear like an eye moving, it might just sound like wood or someone banging on a piece of metal. Because that's probably what a person in a sound studio was doing.
Are any of them fish?
One of them is a fish, and fish don't make sounds. So you have to figure that one out by its absence. It's the worst. So yeah, that's terrible. And then there's another puzzle where you have to figure out where marbles fit in a grid. And that's also terrible. Also, if you're playing in an old system, each of those islands is a different CD, so you would have had to load over and over and over and over again to figure out all this stuff. You had to pull CDs and put CDs in.
All right, I'll give you Riven.
The winner is the puzzles in Riven. It's the worst. Worst mechanic. All right, so why don't we take another short break?
Sounds good.
We will come back with Best Twist. Best Twist. Okay, back in a sec. Peace. And we're back. Our next category in our Game of the Year discussion is Best Twist.
Shyamalan.
Best twist.
All right.
We have several games here with twists. So first nomination, who wants to go first?
I'll nominate one. I'm going to nominate the injury and subsequent winter hunting sequence in Last of Us.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Shadow of the Colossus. You were a dick all along.
Yep.
Dorman's betrayal.
I'm going to go with Coach Oleander was a dick all along. Psychonauts.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good one.
Then we've got
BioShock Infinite, as would be expected from a BioShock game.
Yep. We've got the Queen was alive all along. Tomb Raider?
Not really.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a twist. That was like needed for plot progression.
It's the end of the game. The last thing. Oh, the Queen was not that Queen. She was inhibiting bodies.
Whoa.
It was the same Queen.
Whoa.
Missed. I'm gonna go with the two characters that you're helping are actually murderous assholes all along. I think all of these could probably be summed up with all along. Kingdom Hearts, Ansem was a jerk all along.
And then he actually wasn't?
He wasn't actually Ansem all along. Anything else? To the Moon. Oh, To the Moon. His memory wasn't perfect. Or, no, To the Moon. He wants to go to the moon because he made a promise to his wife.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much a mystery novel.
Okay, I think that's the best twist. Halo 3. The
No.
flood.
Halo 3, your name's John.
What a twist. Okay, so what can we cut from here?
I think BioShock, good twist, but I mean, it's like going into an M. Night Shyamalan movie. You know it's coming at some point.
Yeah, and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, I mean, the time travel part's fucked up.
I think...
Tomb Raider?
No, Tomb Raider is not...
You're the only one who wanted to put that on in the first place.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. Cut that.
What's left?
We've got
Kingdom Hearts.
The Last of Us, Shadow of the Colossus, Psychonauts, Myst, Kingdom Hearts, and To the Moon.
We can probably... What?
To the Moon's another one that's, good twist, but it's pretty heavily foreground. Like, the whole idea is you need to find out why he wants to go to the moon.
I think but there's best twist and then there's most twist.
That's a good.
And I think that's two different things.
All right.
Like Kingdom Hearts.
I think we can keep to the moon for a little while.
Okay. All right.
I would be willing to get rid of The Last of Us because I think it's an unexpected event
happening. It doesn't really turn everything on
Yeah,
its head.
it really doesn't because you go back to it at the end. The reason why I liked it was because it sort of breaks a convention, which is you have this male character escorting a smaller female character, and you're just going to take her to the end of the game because they really can't do anything for themselves. But in The Last of Us, your male character fucks up and gets impaled, and it's up to the character that he's with to carry the entire team weight for months and months at a time while he's nursed back to health. And I was like, okay, game.
Yeah, but that's a nice development.
I agree.
I wouldn't say it's a twist.
I don't think it's doing enough.
I just want to acknowledge I could nominate Final Fantasy VIII here for best
You're
twist.
not going to. Thanks.
The people being
Bye-bye.
orphan, amnesiac orphans.
And the ship, school flies. What?
And
Crazy.
then the school flies. And then the sorceress was actually being mind controlled from the future.
I don't think it can. It's not a twist when it's all twist. Like,
Yeah.
you need to twist
And the main character is actually the son of another character who you get to control.
Okay,
and
so we can
his
not
girlfriend's
add that to the list.
This is just all twist.
The daughter of his father's first love.
What's left?
Now you're just giving a synopsis of the game.
It's all twists.
It's all twist.
It's the most twist. If this was most twist, it would be Final Fantasy VIII.
It already won worst story. That was.
Oh, and the woman who you're fighting at the beginning of the game was actually the caretaker of you and all of your fellow party members.
Just stop.
She's actually the matron of your orphanage. Oh, also she's married to the principal of your school.
Really, stop.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Shadow of the Colossus, that's a pretty strong one, but you kind of know it. You kind of get a feeling that you were a dick the whole time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the whole, what's the word? When demons do stuff to you, possession thing. You don't really see that one coming. Or do you?
Yeah, that's true.
Does he admit he'll sacrifice himself?
So, what you don't see coming is that you're going to become Dorman reincarnate.
Yeah.
What you don't see coming is him being dragged into this portal and eventually lose. You lose. You don't get what you want. You lose. And you lose in a way that you didn't expect.
Okay. I'll keep it on. Psychonauts, you know that the coach is a jerk. It's not that hard of a twist. Yeah. Maybe twist Boyd was the milkman all along.
Yeah. So we've gotten rid of The Last of Us. We've gotten rid of Psychonauts. What's left now?
We've got Shadow of the Colossus, Myst, Kingdom Hearts, and To the Moon.
Let's get rid of Myst.
It's a pretty good twist, but I'm fine with that.
Kingdom Hearts can probably go to.
Yeah, because I think
that is most twist.
Yeah, I think we're just talking about more twist. I don't like it. So we've got To the Moon and Shadow of the Colossus, right?
Yes.
So I guess the question is, how much do we value surprise versus what impact? What would be the?
Yeah, it's surprise versus impact.
I think To the Moon. I want To the Moon to win, and here's my argument. I think that once that twist happens in To the Moon, it recontextualizes everything else about the game.
I agree. I think I'm also going to vote with To the Moon here for the same reason.
All right.
Yeah, I think Shadow of the Colossus, you kind of get a feeling that you're going towards a bad ending with what you're doing. But To the Moon, it's like all of a sudden, all of the objects that you've been interacting with come into focus.
All mean something different now. I mean, I
like the rabbits.
Everything about Shadow of the Colossus, but I think when it comes to twists or shifts in narrative, To the Moon's just got it here.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Okay, so I'm going to circle To the Moon, and I'm going to cross out Shadow of the Colossus. Oh, my pen is out of ink.
Were you writing down all those notes about Final Fantasy VIII? Probably used up a lot of it.
No. Okay, next up. Thank you, To the Moon. You win Best Twist, our Marianas Trench Award. Next up, we have Prettiest Game.
Prettiest Game. We get Tomb Raider a little love here. It was a good looking game.
Stunning graphics. Want to throw out Child of Light?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I'm gonna throw out Undertale. It's got a grimy beauty to it.
It's got a real ugly beauty, like a real hideous, ugly, disgusting, gross beauty to it. Yeah. Thomas Was Alone. Minimalist beauty.
Okay. I'm gonna definitely say the Talos Principle.
Yeah. We're going in a lot of different directions on this one.
I think I want to narrow it down right now. I think it's probably going to be
Until Dawn.
All right, look, there are a lot of them that are doing sort of the same thing, right? So we have a realistic versus non-realistic split here.
This is so a traditional split in game award categories is best graphics technical and best graphics artistic. Okay. That's usually how they split this. Right. I hate that.
We don't have to do that.
I'm just saying.
Let's just put one against the other and see who wins. So like I'm thinking right now we've got Until Dawn and Tomb Raider for the same graphic design, and I'm gonna pick Tomb Raider because I think
you hate Until Dawn.
Not because I hate Until Dawn. I think Tomb Raider and Until Dawn both succeeded in creating human graphics pretty well. I think Tomb Raider keeps up with Until Dawn, and then Until Dawn just like fails at creating like environment, and Tomb Raider does an excellent job at creating environment. So Tomb Raider takes the cake.
Tomb Raider does have very few Wendigo graphics, though.
That's true.
They've got
Until Dawn's people
Undead Samurai Stormguard graphics, though.
But those are just people again.
Wendigos
and I think that Until Dawn's
so were the
people
Stormguard
are the best.
I'd go with Tomb Raider over Until Dawn.
By Until Dawn.
Aww.
Was that a recommendation, or were you saying farewell?
That's fine. That's fine. I just think the Talos Principle is being overlooked here. I think that game's really pretty.
Yeah, it's really pretty in the same way. All right, so here's what
Neo
I'll say.
Egypt.
I think that game isn't alive like
it's digital.
Tomb Raider is.
But that's
part of the beauty.
Tomb Raider, everything's all shadowy and dark. Something I liked about Talos Principle is bright. There was sun.
There was sun.
Yeah.
There was sun in Tomb Raider as well.
Not really.
I don't know. I think the diversity of the environments in Tomb Raider might actually be like the windswept monastery and
that's a good point.
The snowy monastery. I think those are both really cool environments. and the sulfur caves. Like they do have some variety that Talos Principle basically has like 4 environments.
It's the same thing over and over. Yeah.
Though there is something super striking about when you leave the first area and see the tower. But that might be a best moment sort of thing.
I think you're right.
So Thomas Was Alone. We've got right now we still have Tomb Raider, Child of Light, Undertale, Thomas Was Alone. I think Thomas Was Alone, it's got its beauty, but
unique aesthetic, but not strong enough to carry the category.
Undertale, I'm going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know why you can put that there in the first place.
So we're down to Child of Light versus Tomb Raider.
Here is the artistic versus technical fight.
I got to go Child of Light. I like that watercolor vibe they had going on. Backgrounds, especially, remember when the stone giant was walking across that background?
Yeah.
Sweet moment. That was awesome.
I kind of want to go Tomb Raider. I just really loved the look of the monasteries. I thought that running around in those was my favorite part of the game. Which I guess is kind of feigned praise. But I think it's strong enough that's enough for me.
Billy? You got to adjudicate.
This is real hard right now. So the things that stood out the most to me about Child of Light were the exploration parts of the game. Like when you were in the sky, like hanging like islands in the sky, where you see some of the circus troupe people When you went to the underwater world, that was just gripping and beautiful. It was awesome. I'm thinking about Tomb Raider and its attention to detail and like the such like small living things that were in that world. I mean, everything you could interact with, almost everything was alive. I'm gonna give a small edge to Tomb Raider, and it hurts, honestly, because I think about Child of Light and I'm like, that game is gorgeous, you know. And if it was art and music, it'd probably go Child of Light. But I don't think that's what we're trying to get here. I don't think we're trying to combine together visual and audio, because why would we have a soundtrack category then?
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
If we're going to talk about just the visual presentation, I think Child of Light goes a long way, and it's so close. But Tomb Raider just built this living world where everything is in like high render detail, and they rebuilt a character from the ground up and took a person from unrealistic physical portrayal to actual beautiful female portrayal. I mean, I think there's a lot of small things that give Tomb Raider an edge for me, and I think Tomb Raider's gonna take Prettiest Game here.
So maybe if there was a best style category,
if there was,
Child of Light would win.
Yeah,
that.
if there was like a best overall aesthetic package, I think Child of Light would beat Tomb Raider. But if we're talking about like just like beautiful visuals, I think Tomb Raider's got just a slight edge over Child of Light if you strip away the other things Child of Light does that aren't visual.
Okay, so the winner for Prettiest Game is Tomb Raider. Congratulations. Next up, we have Best Post-Apocalypse.
So, Fallout 3, obvious contender.
The Last of Us.
The Walking Dead.
Can we be done?
No, Talos Principle.
Talos Principle? Okay.
Yeah, the humans are gone, right?
Yeah, that counts.
Yep. And oh no, Thomas Was Alone is not post-apocalypse.
No,
Yeah, not really.
Anything else that is post-apocalypse? Shadow of the Colossus is not, right?
Nope.
I would blow up the world to get rid of Dota 2, but I don't think that counts.
Yeah, I think that's all of our potential nominees.
Apocalypse.
We got 4, right?
Fallout 3,
Yes.
Last of Us, Until Dawn, not Until Dawn, Until Dawn, not Until Dawn, Walking Dead, and Talos Principle.
I think we need to get rid of either Walking Dead or Last of Us because they're just too similar.
It's just too much overlap.
Controversial opinion, maybe? I think we should get rid of both. Zombie apocalypses, I don't care if they're fungus or regular. They're played out.
So what would that leave us?
That would leave us Fallout 3 and the Talos Principle.
I'm thinking like where You know what? I'm actually okay with ditching them because I'm going to go with Talos Principle if that's the case. And I'll explain why. When we are faced with apocalypse, and I think in Talos Principle, they knew it was coming.
They did.
As opposed to perhaps the Fallout 3 scenario. I'm not sure if they knew it or
I forget
not.
what caused the apocalypse there. I guess it's just nuclear war, right?
Yeah, it was like a nuclear winter.
Yeah.
But in Talos Principle, when they said it was actually kind of funny. We've been just killing ourselves over and over again, and now something else, because I think it was like a virus or a disease that took out everybody in Talos Principle.
Yeah, it's viral.
Yes.
And humanity was just banded together because now they had a common goal, which was their legacy, posterity, their progeny. Like, what are they going to leave behind?
Ugh.
And I found that to be strikingly mortal and human, and I liked it. And for me, I couldn't connect with anything in Fallout. Like, it was apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic. Yeah, it was community building, but I couldn't connect to that in any way. I couldn't put myself in the shoes of a Fallout person, but I could put myself in the shoes of somebody from Talos Principle. Like, I would probably be fighting to leave on some kind of legacy for whatever was to exist after humans.
I think the nice part
I agree.
the nice part about Talos too is it's about building a new type of society. One in which humans are gone. It's just automatons now. Whereas Fallout 3, a lot of the appeal seems to be, all right, we're rebuilding society. We're trying to establish, they're outliers, but for the most part, the same sort of
Or just destroying it and killing everyone.
Yeah, right. So Talos is about something new, something different, in a way Fallout 3 isn't quite about.
Yeah, Fallout 3 is more of it is somehow a celebration of the 1950s while simultaneously being a post-apocalypse.
Yeah, that's strange.
And I think Talos Principle just does something so different. It is both, I think, the best post-apocalypse and the most different post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
And so for that, I reward them because post-apocalyptic literature has been so saturated that to see a different one, even if it's still the same viral apocalypse that a lot of movies and stuff predict,
right.
Doing something different with that conceit, I think is worth rewarding. So best post-apocalypse goes to the Talos Principle. Next up, least game. This is my favorite category.
We got a lot of contenders for this one. Until Dawn.
So to explain this category, we a lot of the times in our podcasts have said, "Is this a game? How much does it really take for it to be a game?
How much game is this?"
And said, "What if this was a book?" And so this category is for us to talk about which of these was the closest to violating our standards of what is or is not a game.
Now, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't nominate Shadow of the Colossus because that was the entire topic of our first podcast.
True.
Yes.
Shadow of the Colossus, Until Dawn.
Yeah. Thomas Was Alone.
Thomas Was Alone.
Mm-hmm. I can't think of anything else. Dota. Dota's just a disease. Dota's what caused the scenario which occurred in Talos Principle.
To the Moon.
People started dying, and
Oh yeah, To the Moon. People caught
To the Moon, yeah.
The Dota.
So we've got 4, I think, that are solid candidates: To the Moon, Until Dawn, Thomas Was Alone, and Shadow of the Colossus.
And Myst.
All right, if we've got 5,
it's a legacy.
I can probably throw out Shadow of the Colossus and Myst happily. Myst because while that game, Myst was a relic, but it was also a legend.
I just want to make a historical argument, so I just added that because in its time, people argued that Myst was not a game, that you weren't doing enough because graphic adventures were not that. And so at the time, that was a serious argument that people had.
Yeah.
Games have come a long way. Thank goodness. So I'm going to cross that off the list.
Happily.
I felt like I needed to say, hey, that's what people thought not a game looked like.
And
once upon a
I'm
time.
also happy that I can probably say Shadow of the Colossus goes off this list too, because the argument that I made first was that it strips away so many of our typical game conventions. It does have characters, a little bit of story, objectives, and like an end goal that you're fighting for. It meets enough of the criteria to.
And there's combat platforming elements.
There's combat. I mean, it meets too many criteria.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think
so. Now we've got To the Moon, Until Dawn, and Thomas Was Alone.
Thomas Was Alone shouldn't be.
Thomas Was Alone is at least as much of a game as any Flash game platformer. So, and there's a million of those. So
it's more than Until Dawn and To the Moon at least.
Should The Walking Dead also be on this, since this seems to be the...
Nah, I feel like Telltale games are fine because you actually have, some quick time events and some reticle aiming in the Telltale games. So I'm fine with keeping them around.
Okay, so we've got Until Dawn and To the Moon. I think the question here is, are quick time events more gamey than the little flip puzzles in To the Moon?
Wow.
because both games have a bunch of looking around and examining objects in the background and foreground. But really, the differentiator here is there's some QuickTime events in one of these, and in the other one, there's puzzles, light puzzles.
I'd say To the Moon is less game than Until Dawn.
I would say Until Dawn is less game than To the Moon.
I would say Until Dawn is less game than To the Moon.
All right.
Because Dr. Watts does a hot, sexy quarter circle forward and throws a Hadouken out in that game.
There's a Hadouken.
So
that's true. It contains game references.
Exists. So I guess my real argument is that there is a degree of puzzle solving in To the Moon, not the flip puzzles, but each level is kind of its own puzzle. You had to solve a puzzle when the memory started to break, right? Getting from like memory jump to memory jump, that started to become sort of a difficult puzzle, I guess you could call it. And I use puzzle loosely there, but I'm thinking Until Dawn is just a movie that we clicked through with like the X button. Just advancing dialogue points, and that's really all it was. And To the Moon was that as well, but it was punctuated in certain points by bits of game skill.
Yeah. I guess there was
I have to defend Until Dawn. Let's not panic, folks, a little bit, because there were some QuickTime events that were beyond press a button and were like aim to shoot this thing. Like when the Wendigo showed up, there'd be a Wendigo jumping at you, and if you didn't shoot it, you got fucked. So you did have to point and click. It was basically Duck Hunt of Wendigos, but
yeah,
still, I'm not gonna say Duck Hunt was that much of a game either.
I love the idea of Duck Hunt with Wendigos.
That was just like, hey, guess what? We can use light guns.
Wouldn't it just be Wendigo Hunt?
Yeah, but
maybe. Okay, so the winner is the loser.
The loser is
the loser.
Until Dawn.
Until Dawn.
You are less of a game than To the Moon.
You suck more.
We have decreed it. Billy just wanted to get shots at
That's
Until
fair,
Dawn. Yeah. So the second to last category here, best coming of age story.
All right. Again, a lot of contenders here.
Last of Us.
Last of Us.
Child of Light. Kingdom Hearts. Psychonauts, yeah.
Kingdom Hearts, yeah.
Final Fantasy VIII.
Could you say Tomb Raider? Is Laura too old for a coming of age?
No, that's
she clearly is a coming
origin
of age.
story, yeah.
Yeah, Tomb Raider.
It's got to be in there.
Child of Light, we already got that one, right?
Yeah.
The Walking Dead.
Sure, yeah. Clementine definitely grows up.
BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, not for the protagonist, but for
Stretch.
What's her name?
Elizabeth. Dota 2. Every game is a coming of age story.
You go from level 1 to level 25.
Level 0. You started from the bottom, now you're here.
Drake makes the best music videos.
He does. So right now, Tomb Raider.
Does it bother anybody else that it's Hotline Bling and not Hotline Blink with a K?
Yeah, that kind of bothers me too.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting derailed here. I think of the ones that I nominated, I'm really only going to stick around for Child of Light.
I mean, it's got it right in the title.
I would go... So, I would leave...
Psychonauts.
I'm going to cut Psychonauts because it's not actually a great coming of age. He does have to accept his father, like, a little bit. But the coming of age part is not the part that's excellent about Psychonauts. The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, and BioShock Infinite, as we talked about in our Relationships in Game podcast, are kind of the same coming of age story 3 times.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with cutting all 3 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, for...
Because how can I even pick, like, The Last of Us would be the one out of those. I mean, The Walking Dead, I think, would be the winner if it was those 3.
Wait, what 3? The Last of Us, Walking Dead, and what?
BioShock
Infinite. I think The Walking Dead is the best of those 3, with Clementine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bioshock's a little slow.
And I'm only thinking about that. I guess this is kind of cheating because if you think about the later installments of Walking Dead, where Clementine goes in the later parts of the game, then you really do see a coming of age thing. But if we're going to isolate it to Last of Us, like the first round of those games, then it's still solid, but I don't know if it's going to take it.
I want to cut Tomb Raider because I feel like it's the most heavy-handed coming of age story.
Yeah, we had a lot.
I just want to again, Alex with his damn screwdriver.
Oh my god, dude! Fucking.
How many people must be sacrificed so that Laura can become the Tomb Raider?
And those gruesome fatalities that she's doing like half hour into the game.
Oh my god! All right, so what are we at right now? Child of Light, Walking Dead,
Child of Light, Kingdom Hearts, and Final Fantasy VIII
can go easily. For the same reason Kingdom Hearts can go, I think.
Yeah, it's all that same like friendship is magic bullshit.
Yep. I'm fine with both of those going. Child of Light wins. I kind of came up with this category because Child of Light.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Made me think.
Well, let's just flesh it out and give it the appropriate.
Yep.
Billy,
you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So, when we think about a coming of age story, we think about a realization, a development, growth of character, and I mean like personal character, not just the actual, being. And Child of Light does every one of those things elegantly, right? You meet Aurora, who is literally a girl, small girl, and she's
like age.
Yeah, like small girl age-wise, thinks that she's in a magical dream, and it's very Alice in Wonderland, down the rabbit hole, and everything's going to be fine. Comes to a realization that this is all real and happening to her, and she breaks down like a child would and calls out for her parents like a child would. There's a little bit of friendship as magic to get us from this point to the midpoint, right, where she meets her party members and finds out that the world's not so scary if you've got people that you can trust. And along the way, we start building relationships and becoming more, I guess, adolescent in our interactions, right? Going from sort of like child to teen. We eventually get to a point in the game where she gets or acquires power of the star, sun, and moon, and she becomes quite literally transformed from a child into a woman. And not only is she physically changed, but her character changes. Her attitude is different. She is not the scared child she was in the start of the game that thought this was all fake and some kind of bad dream and then cried when it wasn't, but faced an evil dragon family member as a grown woman who was the primary agent of her own story. And I think that is it is pretty textbook for a coming of age story. I don't think that it did anything particularly new or exciting about coming of age stories, but I think it didn't make a single mistake. And I can't believe I'm the one talking about this when I'm probably like the most least like well-read person in the podcast. I think we have like 2 English majors and me, and I'm the one talking about coming of age stories.
Pete, do you want to add something? I mean, it's a pretty standard. It is a pretty boilerplate coming of age story, but it is. I think it hits a lot of high notes.
Yeah.
The characters that you interact with are great. I really enjoy how the main character, how she soothes each of their problems. Is she solves their problem in a side quest, but then the way to actually get them to come about is to play music. I think kind of explaining that friendship is important, but also these artistic things are also important to how we feel and our emotional well-being. I think that the way she physically changes throughout the game was inspired. She didn't have to, but I think that adds something. I think ultimately going to challenge her evil stepmother, helping take control of her country, I think is a pretty significant moment.
There was a pretty significant undertone when Aurora, the character, acquires the stars and the sun, and she gets a little bit stronger. And then as soon as she acquires the moon, she's a full woman now, like super, puberty, like menstrual cycle tones. Let's not go too deep into that, but
I think you already said all that.
Yeah, I can't say
not
anymore.
much more to elaborate. Yeah, but you guys hit all the highlights. I think what really sets this one apart is the combination of both physical changes. Like if you think about it, it's a small thing, like the way she used to swing the sword versus the way she swings it later in the game.
Combined aesthetics, it's good stuff.
Yeah, combined with the character changes, right? Like if you think another great coming of age story, I think Ocarina of Time. But when you think about right, but when you think about that, it's mostly all physical changes with Link, right? Like how do you know he's older? Well, he's taller and he can hold his shield now. He's not really a different character per se. Whereas Child of Light does both fairly well, which is a nice... Yeah, like we said, it doesn't do anything new or particularly innovative, but it's competent. It hits the notes it needs to.
And let me say one last thing on this. I'm going to take this back to a class I took in college. It was a creative writing class, and my teacher was describing a scenario that he was in or was talking about where there was like a poetry class, and one guy was getting a bunch of shit from his contemporaries or his classmates saying, all you write is like white male Southern poetry in the same like style every time. And they just kept giving him shit for it. And one day in class, this student or something said, all right, I know I write the same kind of poetry over and over and over again. Help me write the best kind of this poetry. Like make me do this one cliche style the best. And if we're going to talk about coming of age stories as being like an overplayed cliche type of story, I want them all to be like Child of Light because it just did it the best.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. And now, Game of the Year for realsies.
Didn't we already do that?
Well, we did Game of the Year 2015. It's the year of our Lord 2015.
Game of our year. It's our time,
yes.
Bros. It's our time.
That's a way better game of our year.
Game of our year. The best game we played this year.
Yes.
So they're all here now.
So everything is technically nominated because we played all of it.
So if we recorded this podcast when I was 13, Kingdom Hearts would have won.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't.
Yeah,
now, I want to throw some stuff out there.
Let's just actually go through the process of nominating, just because there's so many that don't.
Yeah. I want to say that
rank.
we can't do the relationship in games podcast because some of us didn't play those games.
It's fair,
right? We can't do Mist Riven Final Fantasy VIII because we didn't play those games either.
Damn, I was actually going to vote for Final Fantasy VIII. Gino's convinced me over the course of this
podcast.
That's why I want to just throw the rule out, like right now. No Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
What if he convinced you?
He didn't.
Once I heard the school could fly, I was done. All right, so let's see what we got. You know what? I want to toss out Valda's story.
Damn it, now I got to think of one.
I like it a lot.
Gino, you have to go.
I know which one.
All right, I'm going to throw out Undertale.
That was an obvious pick.
Psychonauts can be in the group just because it's amazing. Talos Principle can go in.
To the Moon?
Probably not.
Ooh. Okay.
Shadow of the Colossus goes in for me just because it is easily in my top 3 games. Like, hands down. If not 3-5 for sure.
Shadow of the Colossus in. Let's see what
Where
else
are we at
in
now?
Here. Dota 2? Is this Dota 2?
Oh, yeah. If we're talking about how many hours spent, I've got about 2,000 wasted.
And somehow that didn't win your Grindfather Award.
Yeah. I wonder what I was thinking at hour number 1950, and I could do 50 more hours of this.
Does anyone play Dota 1?
I think we have a good list.
There is Dota 1. Dota 1 is technically a mod of Warcraft 3.
Okay.
Made by somebody named Yule, I think was the guy who originally made the first Dota 2 map.
I shouldn't have even asked.
It was like a custom game
Right.
that was made from Warcraft 3, and they just copy and pasted the different units in that game and gave them abilities that were found somewhere else in the game. They just chopped up all the pieces of Warcraft and mixed them up together and made Dota 1.
Gino, what's our list?
Right now, our list is Valda's Story, Undertale, Psychonauts, The Talos Principle, and Shadow of the Colossus.
Right. Can I make a startling confession? Can I share my soul with you guys?
Yeah.
Can I bare my heart without suffering ridicule?
Yeah. This is a safe space.
Safe space. I learned something about myself so far over the course of this podcast. And it cut me deep, realize this about myself. I found out that I don't really give all that much of a shit about story in games, and that hurts me deeply as an English major. I like thinking about them. I like talking about them. That's obviously why I'm here. But when I think about what game meant the most to me this year, it's Valda's Story, which despite the name had pretty much no story. And I think it's because it's just so mechanically pleasurable. The combat was just so strong that I didn't even care about the story at that point.
Can I ask you, Pete, have you played it more than once?
No, man. Unfortunately, I haven't had the time. But
did
Chris
you play?
Is great. That's
did you play? Did you play Wyatt's story?
Yeah, I started with Reyna and then switched to Wyatt.
Let me just say, you can probably save Reyna for last.
Yeah.
If you really want to get into time, I say beat Wyatt's story, play Vladen and Gilded because they are just a pleasure cruise of mechanics.
Awesome, man. I'm there.
What about all these other games that?
Now look,
Undertale's pretty great.
I love Shadow of the Colossus. I love Psychonauts.
I could be convinced, Gino. You could convince me on Colossus potentially, but I'll never get behind Undertale.
I think.
What about Psychonauts?
All right, so look,
maybe you could try on that one. Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna cross off Undertale. I'm gonna let that one die. Bye,
so
Undertale.
We're at.
Wait, Billy, could you be convinced on Undertale?
I could maybe be, but I.
Okay, I'm uncrossing it.
Okay, so
is that pen or pencil, Gino?
It's pen, so I wrote it again.
What's the list right now? Psychonauts, Shadow of the Colossus, Valda's Story, Undertale, and what else? Was there just 4?
The Talos Principle.
We can probably get rid of Talos Principle.
I agree.
Yeah?
That's not one of the games I want to win.
All right. So we're at
5.
Shadow of the Colossus, Valda's Story, Undertale, and Psychonauts. Okay, so Psychonauts and Shadow of the Colossus are almost unfair because they're just classics. I don't want to give too much weight to classics here. We know they're good. Right? They wouldn't be around 10, 15 years later if they weren't good. What's going to break it for me is saying, wow, I didn't expect to play this game this year and fucking love it. Right? That's why Undertale is still in for me. Right? Because when Gino said, hey, guess what, guys? We're playing Undertale. I'm like, I never heard of this. It's probably some bullshit game Gino thought of or something like that.
And it was.
And it kind of was. But for how much for how low my expectations were, they blew them out of the water. And I had a really good time playing Undertale. So, Gino, right now, I think Pete's pretty solidly anti-Undertale, pro-Valda's Story.
This is not how I thought this would go.
I'm leaning Valda's Story, but honestly, like, if I'm going to be real, I could be convinced Undertale. So let's hear it.
Okay, so are we sure that Shadow of the Colossus and Psychonauts are not going to make it? Because I think Shadow of the Colossus is excellent.
I think it is too.
And I think Psychonauts is also excellent.
Yeah, me too. I never said they weren't. I said they would probably win. I think if one of them goes, both of them have to go.
I could be swayed on those, but if you want Undertale to win, you got to get Billy. That's how it's going to go down.
And if we're going to keep...
Do I like Psychonauts more? Do I like Undertale more?
If we're going to keep Psychonauts and Shadow of the Colossus, Undertale's definitely out.
Ooh.
You gotta kill your darlings here.
I agree with you. You know, it's not the knives come out now.
It's true.
This is the
This is
time
it.
when cuts need to be made. And I agree with Billy. I agree with your premise that we shouldn't just reward the classics, because otherwise, you know,
we just play Ocarina
next year when we plan on this again, like if you just pick Ocarina of Time, or like I pick Final Fantasy IX, or like we pick a game that really speaks to us and is a classic and one of the greatest games ever, you know, if someone picks Chrono Trigger,
it's just not
Chrono
it's just
Trigger's
not fair.
going to beat.
Yeah.
It's just going to beat stuff because you've played it for years and it's excellent and it's stood the test of time. And I don't want to have, like, you know, all-time achievement awards be what wins Game of the Year every year for us. Because this is going to be going for years.
10 years when we look back on this first podcast.
We are at a duel right now. Baldur's Story versus Undertale. Gino,
Yes,
this
okay,
is
let
the
me try to
finale.
convince you on Undertale.
You got to
Let
put
me-
in some heavy.
You have to ask yourself, what sort of
got some
person-
work to do here. You're ready. Take a deep breath. One more.
War Eagle.
He's now Owen Wilson from Zoolander.
Powering up.
Oh, just got to stretch. Okay.
What's the scouter say?
Okay. Baldur's Story controls excellently. It is a joy to play. It has a lot of very strong mechanical elements. Its story exists. That's all I can really say for its story. It's got moments. There are certainly moments during the boss fights where the story comes out in some interesting ways, and the way that each of the different characters impacts the way you play, I think, is substantial and significant. However, there is nothing in Baldur's Story that is as revolutionary or as subversive, as important to the medium of games as a whole as some of the stuff that Undertale does. Being one of the only games where you can play completely passively and have that be a valid way of playing, and in fact the correct way of playing for the entire game without exception, that has never happened before that I've seen. The fact that all of the items, all the little minutia, can be used in multiple ways, that it rewards your cleverness for thinking that these are things that interact, they seem like logically they should interact, and then that being taken into consideration, the amount of sheer programming and foresight that needed to go into this game, the amount of love that had to go in to make stuff like dog residue behave in different ways depending on when you could use it, or for example, the snowman, you need to take a lump of snowman across the game, and if you eat the snowman's snow in front of the snowman, he will learn to not trust you because you are a monster who would eat his snowman
If
piece.
you finish the game with his piece in your inventory, like Sanj just comes out and for a little note and says, "Hey, just want you to know, you made a snowman real happy."
Yes. You can... There are so many different auxiliary items. The characters are so vibrant, and even though you have no... Like, it's a skeleton, a weird, like, fish lady, and a dinosaur, and you identify with them. And those characters are so well written and so clever, and they seem like nothing I've seen before in games to some extent. They are all memorable. After you fight a boss fight, you don't get an ability, you get a scene, you get character development, you get to see where these people live. And so often in games, characters exist as these floating bubbles that are not tethered to the world in any meaningful way. And to see that every single character in this game has a home, they have a place that they stay, they have likes and dislikes, and it all matters. And they can impact your playthrough, like... Those characters who you befriend eventually come through for you at the end of the game if you get the good ending. The fact that this game plays with the fact that it is a game and really changes towards the end, like loading and saving, it is aware of your loading and saving. It is aware of the fact that it's a game. So the final boss, Flowey, the Photoshop Flowey, loads your saves constantly during the fight so that sometimes your heart jumps around on the screen because he's loading and reloading. The executable changes name when you boot it up. The game hard crashes on purpose. The morality stuff that goes on with Undertale, it is one of the only games that takes a hard stance that says, though this might be a video game, it is not a toy. It is not something to be completely played with because you wish you could, because you're the player. It does not give you complete agency. It does not make you a god in this place. And if you behave that way, as though everything is, all of the characters, all of the mechanics are there to be toyed with, the game punishes you for it. And it actually takes a real stance and puts mechanical weight behind that. I think it's excellent. I think the writing on all of the characters is excellent. I think that the music holds up very strongly. All of the boss fights completely change the way the game plays from moment to moment. It's not just that you're perfecting, moving a little hard around a square. Some of the bosses behave like a platformer. Some of the bosses behave like a rhythm game. Some of the bosses behave like
a dating sim.
A dating sim. Some of the bosses behave
I'm helping
like
you out, man. I'm trying.
A bullet hell shooter. An actual bullet hell shooter. Every fight changes. Well, not every fight changes the way that you have to interact. Yes, one of the bosses is a bake sale. You can defeat one of the bosses by just eating a donut in front of her. You can defeat one of the bosses by just running away over and over again. Some bosses you just need to show mercy repeatedly. And if you don't want to do any of this, you can completely change the way you play by actually engaging in violence. And that method of play changes. If you kill a character, a random enemy, and it happens to be an enemy that shows up later on, their character model doesn't show up. If you kill the lesser dog, that lesser dog, you can find it later on in the game building a snow sculpture. If you kill it, it's not there. That snow that it was molding into some sort of shape is just a pile of snow. If you kill Papyrus, Sans, his brother, who is a character who you can spend a lot of time with, isn't there anymore. If you kill Undyne, Dr. Aphis can be actually, it kind of depends. If you kill a lot of people, Dr. Aphis can not be there and you don't get to interact with her. Mettaton is just awesome. Like, there are so many strong characters in this game, and those are a whole bunch of reasons why I think you should vote Undertale over Valda's Story. Valda's Story is excellent. Its controls are so strong, but at the end of the day, even though there are 4 different characters and how you play it can change depending on which character you pick, the gameplay doesn't vary up as much as the boss fights in Undertale vary up the gameplay. Undertale is so tight. It is so compact. It doesn't waste your time at any point. Like, even though you like grinding, Valda's Story asks you to put in so much time and sometimes to minimal reward beyond gameplay. Undertale says 5 hours is what you need. You will get the whole experience. You can get more experience if you want, but you don't need to. And if you do, you will get so much more reward. But you can feel like you've completed something in a shorter amount of time. And I think that's worth it. I think not recycling content is worth it. Have I convinced you?
Just breathe. All right. You made a decision very hard for me. All right? So I'm just going to respond a little bit for both games. Right? So I'm thinking about Valda's Story, and I'm thinking about how much I enjoyed its different character system. Playing 4 characters for 4 different parts of the story for me just was awesome. I loved hearing all their different stories, exploring all their different abilities, all their different upgrade paths, all their different karma system, like good versus evil, light versus dark, whatever, in that game. I think Pete's got a strong point that when it comes to mechanics and just having fun playing this game, I just enjoy every second I'm playing Valda's Story. There's not a single level, a single part of this game that I don't like. Even the bullshit poison level, like, because you can just, that level is so bullshit, and the fire level is even more bullshit because fire does way more damage. And then when you start going to what's it called, the Hollow and like the sacred area where you can fight Leylodin, which is like the hardest boss in the game. It's not even the final boss. Oh, shit, like that was just brutal, but I enjoyed every second of it, right? I think aesthetics goes a long way here. Music goes a long way here. So I'm going to give a lot of credit to Valda's Story for art and like visual art, music art, and style for both of those as well. Undertale blew my mind. I didn't know games could be made like this, right? No one's made a game like this. It does so many things different. It does, it actually pulls on your heartstrings. It makes you think about the decisions that you're making because they matter. I like being rewarded for being creative. I like hanging on to an item and saying, like I feel like this that I'm in a situation right now where I can use this item and it makes some cool situation occur, and it did. Like I got rewarded for that. I like being rewarded for just clicking on things in the entire world. Like I just was clicking on random shit that whole game, and some developer thought to write in some code where if you click on this rock, it says, "Hey, it's a rock." Because I clicked on the other 19 rocks in the room, and only that one had code. Like I love that shit. So good.
And it's really funny.
It is funny. There is humor in this this game. There's humor in Valda's story. You've got great characters like Ben McSteely and Sir Pancakes.
Love
the Panda. Great characters. You've got meaningful choices in that game too. Some of the drawbacks of Valda's story is that you can break the game pretty easily by certain character builds. So that took a little bit away from me. Some playthroughs you have to dedicate entirely to getting one weapon, and while I do like that grind aspect of doing an entire playthrough just to get one item, I feel like that's not the kind of grinding I like, and I'm going to be compelled to get those because I'm a completionist, and I'm probably not going to enjoy that as much. Undertale, I thought that its character development was amazing, but then again, I'm thinking about like the narrative of Undertale, and it had some story, but I feel like it was just the serving dish to just say, hey, we created a bunch of cool characters and character interactions. Just go play with them. And so I think Undertale's story didn't put in enough work for me, but its other stuff was great.
You did not get the pacifist ending, right? Do you want me to tell you? So you're missing some stuff there.
You're missing some stuff in Valda's story because you only played one character.
But you're the deciding vote,
all right.
So I feel like you should know. You know everything.
Yeah,
about Valda's story. So Flowey, that character. Flowey is your character, Frisk.
Yeah.
Is the seventh human that's fallen down there. The first human that fell down was actually adopted by
the
Toriel and
Toriel, and that character was killed. And
he was raised. No, he was raised alongside Asriel, their son.
Yeah,
they were friends.
Asriel took him back to the city through the barrier.
Yes,
and laid him in a garden. And then everyone beat him and killed Asriel too, right?
No. So what? Well, yes, but what happened was when he died, Asriel consumed the soul of the first human and became a super being. At that point, Asriel and the first human shared a body and a soul. When Asriel came back, he died, and that soul, that combined power, went into Flowey the flower. It was just a flower and became a vessel for their soul. So Flowey is Asriel. So when you go on to get the true pacifist ending, you find out that Dr. Aphis was trying to figure out what it was about a human soul that allowed them to persevere, and they found it was determination. And so they did research on giving determination to monsters and seeing how that worked. So ultimately, when you get to the end of the game, Flowey, you fight Flowey like normal. You fight Flowey again, a different version of Flowey. And then eventually you fight Asriel. Asriel comes out of that form. The power of the human souls also gets combined with all the monster friends you had. The monsters all get grabbed, Undine.
Yeah, everyone gets brought back.
All those characters, all those bosses come back. They get grabbed by Flowey. They get crushed, and all their souls get absorbed. And then in fighting Asriel, that brings Azrael out. You fight Azrael with this ripping music that you didn't even hear, but it's awesome. You should listen to it. And then as the fight goes on, at that point they change the mechanics so that when you die, instead of dying, your heart, it breaks when you die. Your heart recombines, and it says you refuse to die. And you keep fighting that fight until you overcome Azrael. And then all of the souls inside of Azrael start to fight back against him. And he eventually says, like, why are you sparing me? Why are you trying to help everything? And he eventually has a realization. He has a moral change and shift and comes back to himself, realizes he doesn't want to destroy the world, gives up his powers, becomes Flowey again, and Flowey gets a soul, and everyone gets to go to the surface. And it's ripping guitar. Ripping.
The Pit's got ripping guitar, too. All right, so look.
Oh, and when you beat the game that way, if you try to restart the game, Flowey says, why would you restart the game? I feel different. Everyone here is happy. Why? And it acknowledges that you got the good ending, and what more could you want?
What more can I want is the question that I'm asking. And the answer is more Valda's story. Look, Undertale did something amazing. Undertale's going to go down in the books as like the first game of its kind to do this, and I think it deserves a ton of credit. But I think that, like, I have to take Pete's words to heart here. When we're talking about Game of the Year, I'm talking about what did I just have the most fun playing, and I will have the most fun playing again and again. I recognize Undertale as being good, but I can't imagine having to go through an Undertale playthrough doing something that I think might just be straight up bad. I don't want to be actively making the wrong decisions for an entire playthrough just so I can become a completionist for that game.
Exactly. That's a game impacting you on a deeper level.
On a level that's contrary to who I am as a player. When it tells me that the way I play games is wrong, I don't like it. I don't like being told that what I enjoy, the way I want to be as a gamer is wrong. I don't want to be told that. Valda's story gives you an option of just playing through the story, fighting the final boss, and enjoying an awesome fighting game experience. Or being a completionist. Or caring about the lore. Or, so many things. And Undertale does something like that as well. But when I think about just straight up fun gameplay, that I just had no idea that I was going to get myself into such an awesome game, Valda's story is going to stick with me. Pete, you've been silent for like 45 minutes.
I wanted to give Gino, his chance.
We had to give Gino a chance. And honestly, Gino, I have to be honest. I had not made my decision until about, 2 minutes ago. So you honestly, you were not arguing in vain. I wouldn't have made you do that.
Pete, did you change your mind?
No, I'm sorry, Gino. And it hurts me to say this, because you did make such an impassioned play. And if Billy had changed his mind, I would have been fine with it, for all the reasons he said. Does a lot of innovative things.
I mean, yeah, Pete and I, we are good. Like, Valda's story did so much cool stuff. Sorry, Undertale did so much cool stuff.
And I mean, Gino, you were fighting uphill, man. If I just enjoyed the game a little bit more, if I didn't just sort of hate it for so many reasons.
What? Yeah, Pete, what made you not pick Undertale?
It's like I said in the podcast. It's the same thing that bothers me about Wes Anderson movies. It's just so in love and so focused on being all twee and anime crazed that it just gets on my nerves.
It's pandering to a very specific audience.
Yeah. And it's like Ulysses.
And it's not
and
you.
It's not me.
Well,
it's like
okay,
Ulysses or like Finnegan's Wake,
I would have voted for Valda's story if it didn't tell me that the way I like to play games is wrong and it punishes me for it. But I want to experience every part, like everything a game has to offer, and it doesn't let me. It says, no, you shouldn't do that. And it's like offending me.
But its message is that you should want to play the game because you want to give way to the story and say that
lots of games have good message.
It is doing what you're asking. You're asking games to have choices that matter, that have story moments that are impactful. It is giving the ultimate weight that a game can give to story moments. It's saying this isn't you want to explore, you can explore everything. There's a line in the sand that says just don't cross it. You can, but you shouldn't.
But I will.
You could do everything up to that
But I
line.
will. And they're going to ruin my experience for it.
But that's actual consequence. There's so many... Your whole problem with Until Dawn was that there was no weight to any of the choices. This game has the most weight that I've ever seen a game give to
You're
that.
right.
And now...
This is my final word. Right? Until Dawn... Sorry, not Until Dawn. Undertale. Undertale, you're right. I was asking for those things, and I got them. So I can't say Undertale's bad. We're not talking about first place or last place. We're talking about 1 and 2. Right? I look forward to the next game that's like Undertale. And I just hope that it doesn't punish me for being who I am as a player. I look forward to whatever game takes Undertale's message, Undertale's meaning, and builds upon it, because it's going to be so out of this world. It's going to Undertale changed the game. I mean, changed the game and changed gaming. And I think it's going to open the door for a refreshing new era of games. And someone had to break the ice, and it was Undertale. It did something amazing, but you know what? It was a first draft of something that's going to be more polished and more amazing the next time.
And then you're going to give it to a game that's a Metroidvania with just better combat.
Yep.
We're talking about a fun game, man. You can't say Undertale was like graphically impressive. Its music was 8-bit.
It actually isn't.
Yeah, I know,
there's
but like
variety there.
But I liked Vault of Story music better. I like Vault of Story art better. I like Vault of Story combat better. I like Vault of Story characters better.
That I don't understand.
It's a toss-up. It's probably the closest of the two, but I like Vladen and Gilda a lot. You know, Sans and Papyrus, and you know they're kind of too off the wall for me. They're inconsistent. It seems like they're just like dumb funny.
He's not that
I didn't laugh at Papyrus at all. I thought Papyrus wasn't that funny.
He's so cool. It says it
Do you
on
know
him.
what like the distinction is between like dry humor and like forced
Wet
or
humor?
wet humor? Like I don't know what you would call the opposite of dry humor besides wet humor, but dry humor is good. Dry humor is like proper comedy, good comedy that is well timed and clever. And this just isn't. This just does dumb stuff. As hey, look at me! I'm wearing a cool guy shirt, and my biceps have sunglasses, and I got spaghetti under my hat. I'm like, that's not entertaining to me.
Undyne punches tomatoes with passion to make spaghetti,
and that's just
send a Temmie to college.
It's just
that's
the whole Tem is probably like one of the biggest negatives. Honestly, that just grinded on my nerves.
To college. You
just got on my nerves. And the biggest thing that I have a complaint about Undertale, Vault of Story directly addresses and says, hey, look, it's okay. If you want to play this game a certain way, if you want to play this game all magic on dark mode, and you find out later that was like the worst way you could play, it's okay. There's an NPC right there that can reset your stats, reset your skills, you can try again. Or you can just do that on a whim. Try something different. It's awesome. It's amazing. Vault of Story did everything I wanted it to and more. It left me speechless. Undertale left me speechless too, but it had some faults. And if we're going to talk about the best package deal, Vault of Story for me, hands down. It's clear in my mind. There's no more hesitation. I gave you an honest chance, but now this is about to be a 4-hour podcast.
Well, one of these games you played once for like 6 hours. The other of these games you've played for like over 100.
No.
So I don't think that this was ever really.
I'll say it like this. I played both of these games to one of their respective completions.
You played one of them to like 7 completions.
I just got the full story of Valda's story. And I got one of the full stories of, like, I haven't beaten Reyna's story yet. So I guess you could say I only have 75% of what Valda's story has to offer in terms of story mode. And hey, I missed some stuff in Undertale too because I didn't get the pacifist ending or the execution or like, what do you call it? Like
genocide.
The
or
genocide
anything
ending.
in between.
But I know what that game's about. I know what Valda's story is about. So don't say that I just like am ignorant of the two games.
I'm not saying you're ignorant of the two games. I'm saying one of them you're a lot more emotionally invested in. Which is fine. I expected you to vote Valda's story. You played that game so much. You could
now you know why.
And Pete likes it as
I
well.
do.
And I am hurt, but I accept
You
it.
said the knives were coming out.
I know. The knives came
They
out.
did, man. Things got
Pete,
real.
Look, let's wrap
I
it
thought
up,
Pete was
guys.
going to be my
Holy
swing vote.
shit. It's
yes,
like,
that was
oh
a
my
long one.
God.
So the winner of our game of the year, what was your phrasing, Pete?
Game
was,
of our year.
Yeah, game of
our year is Valda's story.
Valda's story, Abyssal City.
Abyssal City. So,
Nice.
or is it Final Fantasy VIII? Maybe I should know. Let's recap.
Go through the list.
I'm down.
Let's go through the list of things. First, game of the year of 2015. Undertale.
Got the nod there.
Beating out Talos Principle and Until Dawn. Character of the year. John from To the Moon. Beating out Kyrie, Milton, Papyrus, Thomas, Clementine, Lee Everett.
You don't have to name
What?
all the like hard losers, all right? And you can name like first and second place.
Eva, Storm Spirit, Vladen, Gilda, Raz,
my
Boyd, Claire,
God.
Edgar. Comedy of the year. Psychonauts. Beating out Fallout 3, Thomas Was Alone, and
Fallout
Undertale.
3 was a contender? What the fuck?
Yeah, man. I nominated that.
It's a comedy.
Fine.
Best drama. Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Beating out To the Moon, The Walking Dead, and The Last of Us. Best adventure. Valda's story, Abyssal City, beating out Shadow of the Colossus, Child of Light, Psychonauts, Tomb Raider, and Kingdom Hearts. Best soundtrack, To the Moon, beating out Shadow of the Colossus, Kingdom Hearts, Valda's story, Undertale, and Final Fantasy VIII. The Grindfather Award, Valda's story, beating out Child of Light and Kingdom Hearts. Pete, what was your award?
The Alan Turing Memorial Award for the fight against anthropomorphism. Is that it?
Yeah, that was it.
That award winner, Shadow of the Colossus, beating out Talos Principle and Thomas Was Alone. The award for excellence in elegant game design goes to Psychonauts, beating out Thomas Was Alone, Undertale, The Talos Principle, and Shadow of the Colossus. Worst story goes to Final Fantasy VIII, beating out Until Dawn, Halo 3, or beating out, out
Losing, yeah.
Out losing, Until Dawn, Halo 3, Kingdom Hearts. Best mechanic goes to Valda's story, Skill Cancel, beating out Clairvoyance from Psychonauts, The Jump from Thomas Was Alone, the QuickTime events from Until Dawn, Igniculus from Child of Light, the Junction system from Final Fantasy VIII, and the Skyhook from BioShock Infinite. The worst mechanic, outsucking everyone else, is the puzzles from Riven, outsucking Dota 2's Dota 2, the jump in Psychonauts, the butterfly effect from Until Dawn, driving in Halo 3, the Trinities in Kingdom Hearts, and the Junction system from Final Fantasy VIII. The best twist goes to the Moon's revelation of the nature of the moon. and John's relationship with River, beating out The Last of Us, the moment when Ellie takes care of Joel, Shadow of the Colossus, turning out that you were the jerk the whole time, Psychonauts, turning out that Boyd was the milkman the whole time, Bioshock or Coach Oleander was a jerk the whole time, Bioshock Infinite, infinite time loops stuff, you kill yourself, Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, it turns out the evil queen, or the queen, was the same queen the whole time, Myst, the people you were trying to free from the books were jerks the whole time, and Kingdom Hearts, Ansem was a jerk the whole time, and wasn't actually Ansem, and everything in Kingdom Hearts. To the Moon was the winner there, just a reminder.
That's why you don't read the whole goddamn list, Gino.
Prettiest Game went to Tomb Raider, beating out Child of Light, Undertale, Thomas Was Alone, The Talos Principle, and Until Dawn. The best post-apocalypse goes to The Talos Principle, beating out Fallout 3, The Walking Dead, and The Last of Us. Least game, winner with quotes around it, was Until Dawn.
Outleasing?
Less gaming, Shadow of the Colossus, Thomas Was Alone, To the Moon, and Myst. Best coming-of-age story goes to Child of Light, beating Psychonauts, Final Fantasy VIII, The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, Bioshock Infinite, Tomb Raider, and Kingdom Hearts. And Game of Our Year goes to Valda's Story, Abyssal City, with Undertale in second, followed by Psychonauts, The Talos Principle, and Shadow of the Colossus. So, there you go. There's Game of the Year.
A year in review.
A year in review. And that was only 6 months. Next year's going to be so much more
fun. My God.
It's going to be an 8-hour podcast next year. We'll be here all day.
Oh.
We're going to have multiple episodes. We'll have days of content. So, just a reminder, if you think that we made an egregious mistake, if you think that Billy's vote went the wrong way, write into the podcast. At That Pinguino on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got comments. You can also hit me up at That Pinguino thatpinguino at gmail.com. All of these things, you can reach us. We've got so much stuff that we've done here. So there are our Marianas Trench Awards.
I think we broke Gino.
Deepest listens.
Gino's never going to game again.
Our first cut is the deepest.
Anyway,
awards.
guys, thanks for listening. My name is Billy Rothard, a.k.a. Rothgar, so,
My brain hurts. Valda's Story beat Undertale.
I had a really good time this year.
And I was a party to it.
I look forward to 2016 of Deep Listens. Pete?
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. There's a reason Finnegan's Wake is an important book, but, nobody likes to read it. These things happen. Gino?
I was actually going to have Zombie Pie come back again and filibuster about Final Fantasy VIII.
Filibuster?
What?
So guys, I'm going to do something for a sec. Thank you to everyone. So first, thank you to everyone. Thanks for the Game of the Year discussion. I think that was super fun. Can't wait to do it again next year. I'm glad that we all had nice, cordial discussions. The knives did not come out. It did not get personal, which is good, because this is a stupid category, a stupid thing we're doing. I cannot wait to see where this podcast takes us. Thank you to all of the listeners who have been sticking with us. Tell your friends, review on iTunes, all that stuff. But thank you for listening. Thank you for all of the well wishes. I got a lot of commentary after some of our latest podcasts, people saying, love the show, love listening, love the work we're putting into it. So thank you for listening. We love putting these things together. It's a joy. It's one of the best parts of my week. And so thank you. This was a fun exercise. And now I'm going to tell Zombie Pie that there's still Final Fantasy VIII is up for Game of the Year. You guys can cut out. I'm just going to let him go
just
for a bit.
And I can edit. Can you just give us the outro?
Fine. I just wanted to trick him. Is that
so
wrong?
You can. After I can edit it. You got to give us the outro.
Okay, fine. All right. Thank you, everyone. Peace.